We can try to be efficient with this one.
I think for the most part we can be. I think the nice thing is for the most part the plot's very straightforward, so I don't know if it'll take too long. I know Will loves when we don't go 3 hours.
Hi guys! Welcome to another episode of Unresolved Textual Tension. My name is Elin. I'm joined today by my lovely host, Maria. Woo, woo!
Hi,
And
guys.
today we'll be discussing a book I just forgot the name of. I'm sorry. The Poet Empress by... Help?
Oh, I don't remember that one. I've forgotten the name.
It's embarrassing. I finished it 2 days ago, so I have had time to digest the story perfectly, but forgetting the specifics of the names. Shen Tao.
Yeah. Shen Tao. Okay, we both got it at the same time. Look at us. And Elin, how did you feel about this book, Poet Empress, before we premise
I want to start
it?
by saying that I'm probably going to complain about a lot of things because that is who I am, but I want to say that this is a good book. Like, this is going to be one of those times where there's a lot of things to discuss and a lot of things to kind of turn back and forth and kind of, some would say nitpick, but like, I feel like this book is good as it is, and it also had a lot of time to do even more and be a little more layered. But overall, it was very easy to read, and I had a good time. How about you?
I am exactly in the same place. It's gonna be. I love those videos where Will is like, I actually enjoyed this book, but I'm gonna complain about it quite a bit, and you're gonna think I didn't enjoy it, but I did. I actually enjoyed this book. Like, I had a good time. I found it easy to read, and it was engaging. Like, there are sometimes when we read and I finish like whatever task I'm doing while I'm listening to the audiobook, and then I'll put it down, and then I have to like beg myself to pick it back up. Like, I have to be like, okay, we got to get back to it, and like it's a chore. And this wasn't one. I finished it. I mean, you finished it. I think I finished it the day you did, but later that day or something, or because we
I
had spoken
finished
about it
Thursday
briefly.
because I was listening at work.
Yeah, I finished Thursday night. Yeah, so like maybe 12 hours after you.
And it's so rare that you actually finish a few
had, like,
days before the recording time.
especially with a book this length. It's not like a short book. It's not overly long, but it's not like a short book, and so it is rare. There is something like that I found just enjoyable, but I do have some issues in places where this book could have been better. A couple of people in our Discord, by the way, we have a Discord. This is we have a Discord. This is one of our Patreon live streams. You should go. You should join it. You should meet all the cool people and join our book club.
Yeah,
which is what this is. Everybody voted on this.
You get to nominate books, and we'll pick some finalists, and then you get to vote for what we read, and we can all read it together and have a little chat around it. And you can leave your comments in our final thoughts thread, and simultaneously while reading, obviously, you have a separate book chat for it. But we try, when we have time, to always read your final thoughts. I have read all the final thoughts that were posted as per this time. So I have done my homework.
Yeah, I read all the final thoughts available as of yesterday morning. I haven't looked at it since, but we do, like, I love looking at the, like, how other people have digested a book. It's great. But I looked at the Discord and I looked at the final thoughts, and a couple of people had the same issues with the ending that I did, where, like, there's parts of it that I like because there are certain parts of the story I really liked, and then there's another thing where I'm just like, why did this happen this way? But overall, I enjoyed it. But you, again, remember that in your brain, as I'm going to point out a lot of things that I think could have been done better. But this, if you're like, oh, this sounds like my jam, read it.
And before we get into it, can I please just mention that whoever tagged this as romantasy on Goodreads, and romance. What
Get
were
fucked.
you thinking? Like, were you just trying to bait people into reading it? Because the people who come for romantasy, they're not gonna be happy. Like, it's such a
No.
disservice to the book as well.
I was so relieved because I went into this as per usual. It's so funny. I was watching our review of Katie, mine, and Val's review of the Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Society book, or
Cat
Cat
shelter?
Rescue, whatever that one was, and I made the comment. Yeah, I made the comment that I never look up what the book's about or anything, which I've said before. And I didn't for this one, so I didn't know it was labeled as romantasy, but because I am scarred, I just thought it was. I went in, I was like, oh, we've got like a shitty prince and a girl who's now a concubine. Oh, this is gonna absolutely. And I was just so relieved. I was
I
like,
went in blind too at first,
oh,
and as
wait.
soon as someone introduced an evil prince, I was like, oh no, is it romantasy? And then I went on to Goodreads just to know, and it said so. And I was like, oh no. And then I went down to the comment section, and the top comments were all like, oh my god, rip my heart out. Typical romantasy reviews that you get. And I was like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole time listening to the book, I was just waiting for it to do a quick beeline the wrong
Ready.
way. And it didn't. And it kept kind of twisting and turning and keeping me going, oh, okay, is this happening? Oh, wow. Oh, dang.
Yeah. And also, Chris M, I think it was Chris M in their final thoughts made the comment that there was points where I was like rooting for it to go one way, and then it got me, and I was rooting for it to go another way, and then the ending didn't go
it was
any
like,
of the
oh,
ways
we're gonna have
that
a
I thought
broody
it was gonna
prince,
go.
and then an hour later in the audiobook, I was like, the broody love interest prince is Joffrey from a Game of Thrones. What the heck? And then slowly, like, we started with the eunuch telling his backstory, and I was like, okay, there's gonna be tragedy there. Is this gonna be a redemption arc? And I was like, I don't know if I'm here for it right now, because he is vile.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
He is terrible. And so it's just so great that I love that there's these similar digestions of it. But it is like, if you're expecting romantasy, this ain't it, chief. If you want a smutty romantasy book with the bad boy, with the either a heart of gold or where it's like a dark romantasy and things are real, this isn't it.
This is more like, okay, so a lot of people suffer abuse, and most people turn into lovely empathic humans, and then every once in a while there is that other person who just turns their pain on others and becomes a horrible human being. So that's what you're gonna get.
Human. And also, I made the point to Will that it's kind of like, this is what you get with the systems of how you structure the games of power. Like, this is what happens. Eventually, you structure this where people are supposed to live like this. Eventually, you will break someone, and you will get this outcome, which I love. I love kind of where fundamentally he's a bit of a mirror. And so let's, as we're talking about this, let's give you a little baby premise, a little premise, like a little prem. We'll give you a prem. A little baby. So this book is set in a fantasy ancient China analog called Tensha, and the our main character is a girl from one of the like farming towns kind of away from the capital, and there's been a famine for years. It ain't doing good. You know, babies be dying, people not be having a great time, her family be poor. And on the New Year's celebration, one of the prince of the capital, who used to come by and give blessings every New Year's, finally comes out after years of no one and like gives blessings to everyone. There's magic in this world, and we'll get into it a bit more. But he's also like, my brother Taryn has been crowned crown prince. He's now the crown prince. And everybody's like, oh no, but his brother, the oldest one, Morrow, he was a crown prince, and Darren's kind of crazy. Everyone's like, that guy, the rumors be wild. And you as a reader are like, are these true rumors or not true rumors? How overblown are these? And we're looking for concubines, and our main character is like, for the good of my family, I shall be a concubine. And so the story is just fundamentally, girl goes to be concubine to really, really shitty guy and has to play the games of power and, you know, play the political games to get her will. And she has to make a choice between, you know, what's good for her, but and it's not really for most of it. She's like, I gotta help people, and my quest is to get rid of this guy, this shitty prince. He's shitty. The nation will be fucked with him, and it's her quest of having to write a heart spirit poem, which is the only way to kill him, and we'll get why. But to do it, you have to get to know him on a fundamental and intimate level to be able to write something that can kill him.
It needs to be sprung from a source of love.
And so that means she has to get to know this guy. And thus begins an adventure of what are the stories that get told about people? What is truth? How do people become monsters? And that's the premise. You've been premed.
Welcome to Premtown. And also, hi, Max.
Good morning! Max says, good morning, ladies. Doing some listening before I have to finish my chapters. You finish those chapters, Max. I believe in you.
You ready for the twist? It's a big twist. It's twisty.
It's twisty. Saint Jen also says, I really hate that so much online makes this sound like romantasy. It is really, really bizarre. How much, and again, I didn't read anything, but I was so scared it was going to be romantasy. And based on that premise, you think it's going to be romantasy too, reader / viewer who hasn't read this, right?
It's the first time ever I've read a harem story, and it's not going to turn into a weird romance. And I'm so relieved. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And that's the thing is the author really, I think, plays with kind of what your expectations are going to be. And I unfortunately think that's how we got the ending. I think that is the author knew the expectations going in, and she, like, the whole time, I don't know. Let me check something really quick.
I also feel like I understand how thematically for Wei's journey, the ending does make a lot of sense, and it kind of ties the theme together. But I think the author kind of maybe missed a little in building it, because so much of the book isn't really Wei's story. It becomes so much Terran's story.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to check. I didn't look beforehand, and I just wanted to make sure the pronouns of the author were. It is she.
Oh,
as far as I can tell.
God, I never check.
I normally default to just saying they when I don't know, just because I don't know. But it is she. I do try, like,
you don't want to accidentally be misgendering someone for an entire video, because that's just a bummer.
No. That happened once, and it was not intentional, and it was terrible, and I don't like that. But yeah, I do think there are places where they missed kind of like the mark with kind of landing all of the themes. And again, I think she was consciously playing with expectations to a detriment with the ending, where I think the idea of, like, even because at the ending you think it's choice A, choice B, and then all of a sudden choice like E gets thrown into the mix, and I was like, I didn't even know that was an option.
That was a big emotional kind of whiplash moment. And as soon as I started adjusting to this new idea, and I was like, okay, so I see what she did, and this leaves it at this point where she has done some things, and then suddenly the book just goes, but we're also gonna kind of do a do-over with it. in a way. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We'll talk about that in time.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this. But so another complaint I had was I really liked the princes and kind of, or at least the ones we get to focus on, and kind of like the characterization of a lot of the characters around Wei, who's our main character, Lin Wei. And but I found, and someone, and I can't remember, so I apologize. Someone in the final thoughts made the comment that Wei herself was a bit blank, and not as rich of a character as they would have liked, and I think that would have helped. Um, but at the same time, in a lot of ways, this just isn't actually
Mm-hmm.
Wei's story. Like the fundamental heart of this book is about two different characters that Wei is kind of coming in like the last. It's like Wei is coming
Yeah.
in the last act of a very long story that has already been happening, and she is a player in the last literal, like if this was a stage play, it would be like
In
the
my
last
opinion,
15
the
minutes.
bits of the book with the heaviest emotional beats are solely confined to the brothers, Terran and
Yep.
Autumn. Morrow. Oh,
Morrow.
I have such a hard time with names. Because I mean, you could have built an entire book of just, sorry, I keep hitting my mic. You could have built an entire book on just the two of them and managing court life and how it builds them up and breaks them down, and how this story could pretty much have built and ended in a very bittersweet, kind of melancholic way without Wei's influence, really.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I will say that Sarah Green C 55611 says the structure of this book was one of my favorite things about it. It's got
Mm.
a shade of a detective fiction to it, and that actually, if you think of this as a noir fiction, where Wei is actually just
Yeah.
the noir detective, because in a lot of noir stories, the detective is just there to figure things out. They're not really like a super fleshed out character. And they're just the vehicle by which, and
Yeah.
that does work a lot
Wei is
for how
almost
this
like the
story is.
chronicler
The
of their
story is,
story.
yes. And so if you're okay with that, then I imagine that would be okay. But if you want more out of Wei, and then there was someone, and again, I think this was a different one, who made the comment that like they were more interested in Wei and her story than they were in what was happening with the brothers and Terran. And that's the other thing, is if you want girl goes to the palace and is a concubine and has to really fight the political game, and the majority of it is just about that, this is not your book. A lot of
Yeah,
this
it
book
kind
is
of
just
started with
like,
that, and then it sort of faded
what
into
happened?
the
Yeah.
background. It was one of those moments too where we got to the palace, and I was like, okay, so that is going to be this book. And then for the next arc, it was about something else. And then we went to the third arc. And
Mm-hmm.
it had this overarching sort of theme of Wei playing detective, which was enjoyable. God, I'm so scattered. I'm so scattered about this. When I finished the book, I was like, what am I going to say about this? What am I thinking? I was like, okay, so that was a book. That was a book.
That was a book. I
It's
read
so
it.
funny. It's a pretty linear story,
It
but
was a
at the
thing.
same time, the book is doing a lot of different things. And maybe
Yes.
in one way, that's where it a little bit loses some of its potential, because it can't entirely decide on what is the main focus.
And I would agree with that. I think part of the problem is that there is a lot of things it's trying to do and it doesn't do like the thing that I think it does best is the story of two brothers who are torn down by the systems of uh family infighting inherent to a society where emperor gets to name his heir, and how you have to like fight in that setting, how it tears two people down, makes them different people, and like the effects and kind of like
Hmm.
consequences of such a thing. And that for me was the story best told. And it's also about like tied to that is the idea of truth, and like what is the truth of something, how does and you know, you get multiple different stories about these different about one particular character and kind of figuring out what happened to them. And that's where it's like really detective story, and like the main character's got to figure out what
Yeah,
happened and listen to
and
all the
all those
stories.
little retelling bits were actually my favorite bit of the whole book. Like at those times, I was really,
Yes.
I found them emotionally gripping and engaging, and I feel like they did a lot of heavy lifting, delivering background without it feeling info dumpy, and sort of building this idea of how the kingdom has come to this state it's in now, how court life has been shaped by these fundamental mistakes that were made, and how the rulers sort of shaped the dynasties to this point where the princes and the entire family is basically resources to be milked for whoever wears the crown for the moment being.
The Crown. And it and that side of things works really well. But then you also have a character coming from a poor village, from rice farmers, who suddenly has to go on this dark, like their own journey of turning from that into like a politically minded empress. And unfortunately, I just think that's the weaker side of the story. I found this stuff happening in the actual political current timeline to be the weaker side of it, if
The
that
book
makes sense.
wants to talk about women's means of obtaining power in a system that has deprived them of autonomy, um, means of like ownership and such. It's just that a lot of the things we do to advance are sort of summarized and told to us as a sort of by the way, instead of.
And you're completely correct. Like a lot of ways own growth is told
Mm,
in summary as other things are happening. Um so it's not as good as like getting the scenes of, you know, young baby Terran and young baby Morrow, and like there's that scene at the end where like she glimpses like them as kids playing with all of it, like, and I was like I also have to preface this with saying I'm very weepy at the moment, guys. I've had some stuff happening in my personal life, and for people that I love, that has made me extremely weepy, and I cry a lot lately. And so like I did cry at the end of this book. I was frustrated with how we got to this scene that I really liked, but the scene
mm,
itself I was like it also plays into this like the loss of like not youth, because I hate the idea of like, oh, children and the loss of youth, like, but the loss of
yeah,
like innocence and happiness, that and how we can like create a society that'll just scrape that clean out of a person. And then watching two characters that have been quite miserable most of
yeah.
the book have
It
this
does
like
such a good job of showing how the
joyful.
princes were kind of born into wealth and privilege, and how their youth was greatly part because of the eunuch who was called Hassan.
Hassan? No, Ganji. The was it I think it was Master Ganji, Morrow's eunuch tutor
Anyway,
guy.
Hessen
Hessen
was the
is
one, yeah, and he
Terran
was the one who
remake.
suggested that the children grow up in the garden together so they could play together, and
Yes.
how
Yeah, yeah.
that was really idyllic for them, and it sort of raised them to in the way of children that get a good foundation, a good solid social foundation, where they, as children, cement the belief that the world is safe and beautiful, and that you as a person matter, and that you can do things. And then the book rather excellently shows how beat by beat by beat by beat all of this has been stripped away from both of them. I didn't cry, but it was very emotional. I just got a chill thinking of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And there's another scene that happens earlier. So the scene that Elon and I were just talking about happens at the very, very end. But there's a scene that happens earlier between the brothers, kind of I want to say like 3/4 the way through the book, that like I'm surprised I didn't cry at because it was so sad. It's funny, the scene that was kind of happy at the end made me cry. But then the scene that was like
I mean,
really sad
the
didn't.
scene at the end is
Um
so bittersweet, and that often gets me
Bittersweet.
because
Oh, it's
yeah, and
so
those little
bittersweet.
bits where you get to see and feel for the children, and knowing all the hardship that has come after, and seeing like the kind of devastation that is them now. It is so hard and bitter and sad to see those little kids who you wish could have been protected.
Yes. And they weren't. And it's the best. It just is. It's the best part of the story. Sarah Green C5611 says Wei did feel like an afterthought in her own story. And unfortunately, like while there I like the idea of her as like the rice wife and this like kind of symbol to the people, it just that side of the story is just not as interesting as the story of these two brothers. But I'm okay with it because I like the way in which the story of the brothers is told. Again, if you think of it like this is a noir mystery, and like Wei is a investigative PI trying to figure everything out. I think it works really well. The other thing that I would say is there's a level of this isn't romantasy and it's not a romance, but Wei and Taryn become close in a very specific sort of way by the end of the book. And I just don't think we saw enough to really sell that side of things. What are your thoughts, Elon? Because this was something because we do get quite a few scenes of them like interacting. I just didn't get as many of the like them getting to know each other to get to that point as I think I would have liked in a different version of
Yeah,
this.
I think for me, I think by reining back some things, both the sort of sweetness, but also some of the cruelties, we could have had a more, for me, what would feel like a more realistic progression. Um, because they came at it from such completely opposite sides, and there was a lot of like in the beginning he was so very cruel all the time, and then it kind of flipped over, and I would have liked to see it sway a little less extremely, but back and forth all the time.
Yes. All the yes, yes. You know, show a bit more consistency in him as a character and in
Mm-hmm.
what their relationship was like before we kind of but you're right, it really does swing hard this way to that. And because of it's such a hard swing, you would have needed, I think, so much more time spent between the two of them to build that up. Um So Saint Jen makes a point. There is a point where they establish that Taryn starts to trust Wei, and then it suddenly fast forward to the end. I'm assuming to not lean into the expectation of romance, and I agree. I think it's a hard game to play where if you show them bonding too much, people are going to want the romance of it, which I didn't. I am here for friendship. Also, I'm gonna say that I think you could read Taryn as I don't like it as far as like some stuff, but like like maybe Taryn is just aromantic, asexual, and just like he ain't here for that stuff. And in my in my ideal version of this, it's if we had more time between the two of them, it would have been like a not a friendship, but an intimacy of when you're close to something else. What is that? Proximity.
Yeah, the emotional softening we saw felt a little more to me like maternal, because that is the figure
yes.
that he is aching for, the bleeding wound in him.
Yeah, like big sister, little brother. And I think that would have been like the right way to kind of lean into it, because there is a point where Wei positions herself as kind of like to take care of Taryn, that kind of like starts the journey, and I think that could have worked in a way that doesn't have to lean romance. But yeah, I guess we can start the plot.
First, though, just because I'm Will stand-in today, so I must reference everything back to a Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. I would like to kind of juxtapose their kind of cruelty turning into closeness, and how it felt a little too much either way for me. Compare that to, for example, Tyrion's relationship with his father. Like, immediately we're introduced to Tyrion, who has a lot of issues, and then as soon as his father comes into notion, like as soon as he's mentioned at all, it immediately gives us how his life was kind of marred by little cruelties all the way, like little cruelties and a forced sort of filial relationship. That sense of you have to have a relationship with this person, and it's very destructive to you, but at the same time, you need them to like you. And they're sort of going back and forth between like giving each other slights and then slightly coming around because of circumstance, and Tyrion immediately being like he still wants that approval. Like, that is much more balanced to me, and I wish we could have done something a little more similar, even though they can't have a one-to-one, obviously, because they're not related, and it's a forced marriage situation. But
yeah,
I do think if we had gone a little less hard right away and a little more ambiguous, and it would have been, it would have felt more nuanced. But that would also possibly have attached me more to them as a unit, and in the end, what Wei does would feel like a huge betrayal. It already did. Like, I'm sorry that I have issues. I
have issues as well, especially because like the story goes, I'm doing plan A the whole time, and then all of a sudden the story's like, actually, I'm doing plan B, and then within 3 pages the story's like, never mind plan B, even though at this point plan B feels kind of like, oh,
yeah, okay. And this whole book too, where it's like this nation is rotten, the ruling house, the dynasty is rotten, it is cruel, it is needlessly cruel, and what could change it is something else. I can be the something else. I have seen the reality that people are living in. I have a different perspective. And then it feels like she spends all this time getting Terran, who doesn't trust anyone and who's mean to everyone because he's terrified of being hurt. She spends this entire book getting him to trust her, and the moment he does, she betrays him, and that is fine. It's fine. I do understand that. But then the book tries to do a, but she is still the hero. And this is not a book of her turning into the thing that she berated everyone else for being this entire book. Like,
but
yeah,
also, what the fuck was that? And I will argue there is a way to get the end point of this book, like how it ends. There is a way to get that without making me so angry. And just like it's you could have done it very easily in a different way, and it would have been so much easier to like handle, but they just didn't. It's I don't
since we're
know.
at this point in the review now, I'll say that the main thing I feel like that I emotionally really struggle with is that after she does this big hacking thing, uh, and it's a power play, she makes a choice that she thinks is right, and I respect that. But then the book decides that, oh no, she's not going to have any consequences for it, and she's going to become Empress, and we're going to kind of do a happy ending, sort of. And I'm just like, no, no, that is
No. I can't wait to tell you how I think this should have gone, and how, because I think it's going to fix a lot of the issues you have, and it makes me, every time I think about it in my heart of hearts, it makes me happy. Like when I fantasy rewrite this, when I fan fiction rewrite it, the way I've rewritten it makes me so happy. So I'm excited to pitch it to you when we get there.
I can't wait to hear it.
But if any other points before we get into
start
the plot?
so Will doesn't strangle us in our beds.
Yes, because we're 42 minutes in, Papa Will. So yeah, this book starts with our main character, Lin Wei. She lives in a little, it's called Luan, a little town, a little village, in like the farmland slash agriculturally areas of this kingdom of Tensha, and it's poor. There's a famine, and it's no good. Very bad heckin' famine. Her mom had been pregnant and gave birth to her little sister, who only lived a couple of hours, and she desperately wanted, like, she's had to watch, a lot of her siblings. She's either heard about siblings that died before her or that have come after, and then so far the only one who's survived is her little brother Bao, who she loves. And so it's just not a good time. And it's the New Year's celebration. Her father held on to some little dried plums to give them as like a little New Year's treat. And they're trying to make the best of the situation. And every year on New Year's, one of the princes from the palace are supposed to come and disperse blessings. A few quick notes. In this world, the royal family got magic. And there's two types of magics. There's literomancy, where you can use poetry to write spells that the ancestors, who are like a magical force of the earth kind of thing, will then enact for you. So you can have a spell to like make a tree grow. You can write a spell to like turn on a light. You can write a spell to like make a dagger fly across the room. And that's literomancy, which people can do by learning how to read and being able to write specific poems that have enough feeling to kind of, it's kind of written as if it inspires the ancestors to make shit happen. The other type of magic is the seal-bearing sons of the empire. Tensha's royal line, when they make babitos, they get sigils on their cheeks. And as little babies, it's like half a sigil. They're not sure what it'll be, but around 10, 11 years old, it fills in, and everybody's like, oh, wow, now they have a power. So you can have like a sigil that, and I don't, unfortunately, I don't know what I know what all the prince's powers do, but I don't know what their sigils actually mean. So I'm just going to describe. So like the eldest son, his name's Prince Morrow. His sigil, he can make roads. He can shift the earth. He's basically like Prince Tectonic. Like he can open up caverns, he can build roads with him brain,
He's like an
and him
earthbender.
magic. He can, yes, he can divert streams. He can also call like torrents of water, that kind of stuff. He's really good for infrastructure. You know, you got to build a trade route that people can traverse easily. Prince Morrow's your guy. You got a river that needs to be diverted. You call that dude. And then Prince number 2, his name is Terran, and he has the Tao symbol, and that's for fighting. It's swords. He can literally make swords out of nothing. He can, if there's a sword around, he can like wave it around. He can like sword control. Like he can command like 100 swords at the same time, kind of thing. And he can write. Because he has the Tao symbol. A lot of his spells, he can very easily write literomancy blessings that are related to weapons. He also can heal wounds made by swords specifically, not others. The arrow wounds can't do that, can't heal that, but swords, he can do that. So you know, that's a good guy if you need to fight any wars. That's your man, Terran. And then there's Isan, who he's agriculture prince. He can grow trees and fields of rice, and
He's a whole
he grows
plenty.
shit. He's like a, yes, exactly, agriculture prince. And then we don't know, there's a 4th prince. We don't know what his power is yet, I don't think. And then there's like a baby. But anyway, so there's this thing, and every like the emperors have powers. Like the current emperor who's ill, he was Salt Emperor. That was his power. He did stuff with salt. So they traded a lot of stuff. But like, okay. Anyway, so back to Lin Wei in her little village of Luan. The princes are supposed to come and give blessings to everyone. They're supposed to visit the kingdom. And this is a thing that used to happen a long time ago, but has not happened in ages. The princes have been derelict in their duties. And on this particular New Year's, her little brother Bao is like, take me into town. I want to go get the blessing. And she's like, oh man, it's going to break his heart when there's no one there. But let me take him anyway. So she takes him into town with his little pruny plums. And they get there, and there is a prince, a whole ass crown prince. It's Prince Isan, agriculture boy. And he's like sprouting trees and stuff, and there's like peaches, and everyone's like, oh wow, this is so great. And he like throws blessings into the air, and people grab them. And she's like, wow. She's looking at him, and she's like, fuck him. He's so well fed. And you know, why have they been like, this is so easy, why haven't they been doing this whole time? She's very bitter, and everyone is kind of bitter in because of the famine that they've been dealing with. But they get some blessings. But then Isan is like, by the way, my father changed his mind. The crown prince is no longer my eldest brother Morrow. Papa has changed his mind. It is now Terran. And everyone is like, Terran? We've heard so many bad stories about that guy. He be killing. Terran the Terrible? Old Terry? Like, he's Terry. Like, oh my, and like murders lots of people, like dismembers staff in the palace, like just terrible,
kills
terrible
animals like wherever he goes, just be heckin' dead everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere. And so like they're like, that's the guy? You chose the really shit, like, and again, our main character is like, you all kind of have you don't think about us at all, but like that guy. But then Isan is like, so we need to work on his stable of concubines, so in a month we're gonna be back, and they're gonna be looking for concubines. So come here if you want to be
Yeah.
a concubine. And
If
our
you
girl is
feel
like,
your womb
wow.
is a ripe field ready for planting, you show up.
You show up. And our girl is like, do I want to be a concubine? No. But would it benefit the fuck out of my family? Yes. And so she goes back, she tells her mom, and her mom was like, oh my God, could you imagine if you became a concubine? And Wei begins seriously to be like, that would be such a boon to my family. Bao could go to school. Bao could, my parents could have enough to eat. And it's also about her whole village, because as everyone has now decided that Wei is going to try to be a concubine, everyone is giving gifts, because not only do you have to go and be like, hey, look, it's me. Do you want me to be a concubine? You also have to give gifts
Which
to the
ridiculous.
royal family. Ridiculous. Fuck them,
They
yo.
already have
And so
everything.
everyone in the they have everything. What the fuck you mean? You need shit from the random people, and they take it. It's one thing if they were like, okay, you're gonna be a concubine, so we'll take you. You get to
It's
join the pool, so we'll take your
no,
gifts, but
it's like
everybody else gets to
you're
go back with
giving
their gifts.
them
No, they
bride
take
gifts, and
everyone's.
then they just pick one of you.
I hated
Yeah,
it. It made me so
yeah.
angry. I was like, fuck all of you. And like, there's these two sisters in her village who bring their goat who makes the sweetest milk. And she's like, no, 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 you can't give me this. Your brother, your little Babito brother, this is how he is surviving right now, because you guys are feeding him the milk from this goat. And because she's so conscious of siblings dying. And I actually wish there was more done with how fiercely she loves her brother and how fiercely she thinks about the siblings of the other people in town and this kind of preciousness of siblings. I wish more was done to tie that to what happened with
Mm-hmm.
Morrow and Taryn, because it's such an easy way to get her to sympathize with Taryn
Yeah, there's
out
such
the gate,
obvious
and to be mad at
parallels that
Morrow.
don't really get tied
Yes.
together.
Um,
Oh, wait, we have a good comment.
Oh, yes.
It feels like Isan could have been utilized by the Empire way more, especially working with Mara to get access to fertile lands for farming. True, but also I want to say, like, the book does mention later on with Morrow? Yeah, Morrow. About how his overuse of his power at a too young age almost gives him like a sickness. And at the end of the book, Isan is like 15, I think. So he has had a rather short time to pass out of that sensitive young age. And by that time, when he was ready to use his power fully, the old emperor has gone all gaggy and only cares about war and blades and destruction. So I wish the book had actually done more to drip feed you this idea, because it's really something you can sort of puzzle together and sort of think that maybe that's why his magic wasn't used in a way that seems super obvious. Like, you have a prince that can fertilize the fields and grow fruit and feed everyone. Like, why aren't you using it? But maybe there was reasons, and the author just kind of forgot to put it in the book. I don't know.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, because even if you're like, oh, we need to focus on war, like, use Isan to make the people hale and hardy, and then you can start hiring from farther afield places for soldiers. Like, if you have a healthy, hale and hardy population that is well fed, also, armies run on food.
Yeah, that's like supplying the army is like the biggest issue of war in a big nation, because you have to travel far distances. Like, it's such an obvious. And if the reason to why it wasn't done was because the old emperor was senile, I wish that had been a bigger part of the story. But basically, he's just on his deathbed the entire book.
The entire book. Like, even in the flashback scenes, that bitch on his deathbed. That guy's deathbed is like 10 years long. But yeah, and I also think Isan should have been, especially with how the book wants to end, Isan should have been worked in more as a character that
Mm.
Wei interacted with, or should have been more in the flashbacks between the princes. Like there's no reason the way that this book is going to end that Isan, because like Isan's here now in this, he's like, my brother wants a concubine. He then fucks off and you don't see him again, except like there'll be a scene and she'll be like,
Yeah.
and Isan was there. But outside of that, Isan does not show up in any meaningful way until the very end of the fucking book. And you're like,
Yeah.
who is this guy? Because like, just because his power, the book is going to be like, his power was too good for the nation. And I'm like, but he could also be an asshole. You could have having a good power doesn't mean
No.
you're not a fuckwad, you know?
I feel
And,
like Taryn proved that, kind
you
of.
don't know this guy. Yeah. You don't know this guy. You don't know if he's a good person to stake all the... And the book it would have been very easy for it to solve that problem by just including Isan more and letting us know who he was as a person. And so Saint Jen brings up we're going to talk about the interviews, but Isan could have easily been interviewed to get one more perspective on seeing the brothers split. Like maybe there was a stage where he tried to play with his brothers and he was jealous of their clothes. Like there's so many ways that you could have worked in him as a character to make the ending. And again, I have an edit that makes it work better, but it requires you to introduce Isan a little bit as a character as well. And it's very frustrating. It's very silly. So then it's a month later and the palace has sent a eunuch as representative of Prince Taran to pick out the concubines. And she shows up, poor, skinny,
No,
rice
it is a
farmer
mention,
girl
but no doubt
with her basket
scoured
of...
brown by the sun.
Yes. And that's one of the things that she mentions is that her skin is like leather compared to like there's some city girls there who are all like beautiful and like pale. And she's like, and I was like leather. And she goes, and at first the concubine, or not the concubine, the eunuch is like, get the fuck out of here. What are you doing here, Rice? You're ugly. Fuck off. And she was like, okay. And she like snaps because he's been kind of like rude. And she basically snaps and says, okay, if I'm such a joke, let your prince laugh at me. Let him laugh at me. Let him decide to kill me. What's the harm in letting me go? Because all he is doing is finding women to put into it's kind of like a American Idol where like they go and they just find a bunch of people who are like good enough to enter into like stage 1, and then like eventually you get to the point where they actually pick the 30 concubines. And so he's like, he looks at her and he's like, fuck it, you know what, I am gonna take you, come on. And she's like, step 1, yay. And only her and one other girl in her area get picked, and she's from the city, and the girl is kind of like nasty but also gives her some advice as they go through it. And they get to the palace, and I guess they just go to like concubine
Yeah, they
school.
get separated and they get their own quarters. And the village girl, like the city village girl from Luan, has this thing where she says to Wei, like, okay, so I don't like you. You're an ugly peasant girl, but we're both from Luan. And since there's like, we're still bros, so I'm going to give you advice. Don't trust any of these bitches. If they seem kind, distrust them even more. You have no idea what you're getting into. So, and then they get separated, and Wei gets washed, and we get sort of a little narrative of how they desperately try to scrub her into looking like a lady. And then they go to concubine school.
And concubine school is like, how to dress well, how to please a man. Like there's this old lady who's like, and these are the techniques, and they're doing it on like a bamboo shoot and like telling them all of the stuff to do. And she was like, my mother once told me that like you would just know how to do stuff. And she's like, and now I'm not sure that's the case. I don't think that's true.
No, it's intimated that pretty much getting like prostitute training because they gotta be alluring, and
Yes.
everything is about stoking the prince, and but also in the way of seeing the prince as a breeding bull, because you need to stoke him to warm them sperms up so they may plant, the seeds may plant.
Exactly. It's not just about being a sexy good time. You need to get
it's not about
babes.
eroticism at all. It's like, you gotta make him more fertile.
Yeah, to the point where they're like, and then here are aphrodisiacs and things to warm everything up, and certain smells that'll really get his loins
it's
going.
intimated that if we had the drugs, we would pump both of you full of drugs and breed you like pigs.
Like, exactly. That's the vibe. And there's also the, like, once the prince gets his concubines, there's certain nights within a month that he'll do his, like, for his bride to be, the first string of concubines, the second string of concubines, and then the third string. And he'll travel around. He needs to be out here. He needs to be planting every night, babes. Like, this guy better be fucking exhausted. And she's like, whoa, what a world. And you think at this point that the point of the story is going to be her interacting with these different women. And kind of at this point in the story, I thought it was this whole point was going to be her interacting with these women, learning how to climb the social ladder, use her power, have to like charm Taryn, who is not a good guy. And
yeah, I was like, it's going to be a political scheming sort of social climbing while trying to keep your soul sort of thing.
And that's just not what it ends up being. And so like she has some bad interactions with some of the ladies during concubine school. And then it is time after about a month of concubine school. Also, there is one moment where she gets to eat. Like, it's her first night in the palace. They sit her down and there's like 100 little bowls, like, or maybe 50 little bowls of delicious food and stuff all over. And she gets to eat it. And she gets to be full for the first time in maybe ever. And she's like, I understand why you would claw and fight to stay here. Because, and for her, it's that from having no food to having food is so, you can't imagine going back. She's like, I understand why people would fight.
I don't remember if I dreamt this, because sometimes I'm awake, but I'm dreaming, guys. But I felt like she was, before she ate, she was angry at the plenitude that exists to just present her 100 dishes that she can't possibly eat all of. But then she's also starving and she gets so full and she's like, I would topple empires for this. In that way, that hunger is, it's a basal need.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. And it's a really good and kind of character accurate for who we're given of Wei at this point, of her interaction with seeing all of this, but then getting that delicious, bountiful food and going, oh, yes, please, forever. But then we have, so after the month of training, and like some of the women are really catty and rude to her because her sash is on wrong, and there's a whole thing with a bird. They have the day where Prince Taryn will pick him concubines, and they get there, and then they're all lined up, ready to go, and the princes, Prince Maro comes in, and like it's so funny because it's so anime where all the princes are using their power when they come in to be like, Wisha. So Maro comes in and paves a road before him, like don't, just like, and it's so silly. Like, what if nobody wanted a road there, guy? Like he's just paving a path for him to walk on, and then he sits down
terraforming the entire hole.
Exactly. And it's just such a, like, and the thing is, I get it from the point of view of like, as you guys know, I tell even stories I really like very silly. This scene is actually really enjoyable, but it is kind of silly to be like, ooh,
it was a little
look what I do.
Me and author names. Author of Cruel Prince. how she
Oh,
writes Faye.
oh my god.
Holly Black. It was
Black,
a
Holly
little that
Black, yeah.
that kind of exuberance.
Yes. It's exactly like that. And then like Princey Son comes and it's like tree, flowers. And then everybody's like, where's Prince Taryn? Because he's not there. And then like he just stumbles in drunk from a gate and just says like, hi guys, sorry I'm late. And he like shuffles and like sits down. And she's like, that's Prince fucking Taryn. And he's drunk as a skunk. He has no interest in being here, no magic, no nothing. But the hall they're in has a bunch of swords all hanging from the ceiling. There's just a fuck ton of swords hanging from the ceiling, which at first is just like, wow, look at that decorative choice. And then later has a darker meaning. And so they kind of like start the thing, and he is just uninterested. He does not give a shit. He's not even looking at the girls, and he's like, no, pass. And then the Empress steps in, and this Empress is not his mother. She is the mother of the 5th seal-bearing priest, who's just a baby-do, a little baby. But the current Empress. And she's like, no, my stepson. And she starts making like politically apt concubine decisions on his behalf based on people that some people she wants, like one of them is her niece, some is just people that are from like have a lot of military power, have good trading routes, that kind of stuff. And then it gets to this one girl that they're like, okay, they're deciding on, and she kind of gets close to Taryn and she tries stabbing Taryn. And the thing we have to mention about Taryn is Taryn has this magical seal around him.
And a moniker of he who can't be killed.
That is
he who cannot die. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. And it is a literomancy, so that like magic writing shit spell, that it means he cannot be killed by alternate means. He can only die of old age as long as this seal is around him, and it just like floats around him. It's just like just like touch that's just like
I kept imagining those like Japanese like ribbon blessings just spherically sort of revolving around him.
Exactly. And it means like you can't get to him. So this girl out of nowhere just tries to stab him. And again, a lot of people don't like this guy. He's done some fucked up shit. Now, at this point, we have seen none of it. We have seen zero evidences of fucked up shit. But we have heard stories.
Even then, I kind
of
baffled that this prince who cannot die, you send a girl and a knife, and he is the prince of knives, and the prince of swords.
Like, why would you?
It's a very bad plan. Like that father was not very smart.
No, it's like like even if he didn't have the immortality thing, like it's one thing if it was like a bone hairpin that had been sharpened really, like they were like, maybe if we try something that isn't made out of steel, that is like, and we try that, or something that's like normally innocent. But again, he has the seal.
This scene felt scarily like something that could show up in romantasy, because the logic behind sending her own father sending her to kill a prince, knowing what their nation does to people who does that kind of things. Like, they exterminate their family line to 9 generations, entirely. Knowing that, how could he send his daughter to kill this prince, knowing that it, 1, probably wouldn't work, 2, would exterminate their entire... Like, what was the gain? I don't understand.
There's no gain, and you're right, it's very logically silly, and it's a moment where it feels like the author's hand is showing, where, like, this was the moment where the author was like, we're gonna see how cruel Taryn is, so I need an adequate thing, and this is kind of what they came up with. But it doesn't work from a logic setting, because, like, politically, it's just a dumb move. Like, why would you think that this would work? Like, and also, if you were going to try something this dumb, why would you not try with a servant first? Like, get a servant into the castle, use political connections to get it assigned to his place, and then try to get a servant to stab him and be like, well, that didn't work. You went with your daughter? knowing that like if connected to you, that she would then bring death upon your entire
Why not
family
have
for
someone
9
at court
generations?
thinking that because of who they are, because of their blood, they're safe, do something subtle that insults the prince, and then he does the bloody killing because of that? Like, it makes more sense.
Yes. Or have a concubine try
Mm-hmm.
flirt with him in, or like, because he has some trauma around women wanting to be sexual with him, uh in a very specific way that like I would have preferred if it was like that kind of thing, where like maybe a concubine got a little too like risque with that kind of thing, and he has that like intense reaction. That's not what happens. So this girl tries to stab him, right? And it doesn't work because he's got the seal. And also he controls fucking knives and swords. Blades, his purview. Doesn't work. And he's like, why would you do that? And she was like, I'm so sorry. My dad forced me to. I really didn't want to do it. And he's like, my girl, I'll help you out. If you just walk out the door of this chamber, don't worry about it. You can leave. I won't exterminate your family. That's a lot of work. Exterminating your entire family for like 9
It's a lot
moves,
of
9
job.
removes
Yeah.
of you. That's a lot of work.
I just want to sit at home and drink.
I gotta write papers. Yeah, that's, you just walk out of here and everybody's like holding their breath, and then all of a sudden the knives on the and the swords on the ceiling start to shake, and then the girl runs for it, and then a knife comes and slashes her in the leg, and then it just like she just starts getting pelted with knives, and she literally at an arm's length from the thing, she thinks she's getting out, and then he just skewers her, because what you learn is not only are the knives dropping, but he can direct a knife where to go with exactitude. So like knife to the chest could have been move number 1, and he didn't. He literally lets her think she can escape and get out. And he's like, oh man, now we have to deal with her whole family. And everybody's just like, what was that? And then they're like, okay, let's continue. He's like, let's continue with the concubine ceremony. And who's the next person up on the block? It's Wei.
Such total whiplash. I was like, what?
What? Exactly. And it's Wei, and he's like, who the fuck are you? And then they're like, from a rice farm. And he looks at her and he's like,
a rice farmer. Yeah.
Empress. This is
like,
gonna be my bride.
A rice farmer.
This is the one.
And you could hear the derision in his tone, and then he's like, I'll make you first concubine. No, wait. I'll make you empress in waiting.
Empress. And everybody's like,
yeah, and that's not supposed to happen.
And so then she goes, no, it's supposed to be like a whole thing. Like, and also the Empress has been trying to like fill everything out the way she wants it. And the Empress is like, the fuck? That was supposed to be my niece. I was going to make my niece Empress in waiting. And he's like, nope, this is my choice. So our girl gets like whisked off to like, I think they're in the East Palace. Yeah, they're in the East Palace. She gets whisked off to the East Palace. She gets thrown in a pavilion. She meets kind of like her servants, who are kind of like mainly like keeping away from her. And in there is the eunuch from the day she was chosen, like the eunuch who basically was like, yeah, you can come. And he's like, hey, make me your head scribe. Make me. And she's like, why would I trust you? And he's like, because I want power and I will be loyal to you, because if you're going to become empress, and that benefits me. And she's like, I don't trust you. Like, why did you even pick me? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you. Because somebody paid me to pick an ugly girl so their daughter looked better. And so the girl behind you, her dad, that's why you're here, babes. And she was like, oh, fuck. And she's like, I guess he told the truth, but I still don't know if I can trust him. And he's like, listen, think about it. And he's like, I have this for you. And it's a little like metal stick. And he's like, if you put this in something and it has poison in it, it will discolor. So like, this is how I'm going to prove to you that I will be your man for my own purposes.
Never eat anything one of these women hands you without using this. That is my advice. Take it or leave it.
Yes. And she's like, oh, and she doesn't do anything. So he just lets it drop to the floor and he walks off. And she ends up meeting two of her servants that do talk to her, Ren and Pima. Ren is her her head maid kind of thing who does stuff in her room, and Pima is one of her. Basically, he's her letter writer, because in this world, women do not get to read and write at all. So if you want to write letters or have someone read letters to you, you have like your letter writing scribe. And they're like, okay, great, and they kind of introduce themselves, and they're kind of wary of her. But one of the first things that happens is there's this like celebration in honor of her becoming the queen, or the empress in waiting, and a bunch of ladies come and bring her treatums, and she uses, after they all leave, and everyone's kind of like a bitch. Like, people are like, how did she become empress? And everyone's pissed about it. Like, what did you do? How did you bewitch him? And like, guys, that guy's crazy. Like, everyone's mad at her. Like, she did this. That motherfucker's insane. I'd be like, yeah, this feels apt. I was like, did you see what he did to that girl? Like, he could have just had her taken away and you know, a normal, but you know, he tortured, like, that guy. He does crazy ass shit. But she ends up using, after they all leave, the sticky thing to see if anyone tried to poison her, and someone did. Oh, look at a baby
Gunpowder. Mm.
Hi,
He came and
Gunpowder. You handsome boy.
Needled me with his sharp claws. So then he got to make a cameo, and now he's upset.
No, he's my Jojo came by, but he doesn't like being held, so I did not pick him up. But he was here. You couldn't see him, but he made a in spirit cameo. But yeah, so she puts it in one of the drinky things, and it's in some wine from this one lady, and turns out it is poison. And she's like, I'll hire you, CE. You knew.
You're detestable, but
this. And she's like,
I'll shack up with you.
We'll keep you. And I will say, I love CE. Yeah. I love that guy. He is. St. Jen says, honestly, CE was a dick, but kind of funny. I love that guy.
He had been in the book more. If the book was about Wei and her sort of journey more, I would have loved if C was her kind of like self-interested, kind of dickish but funny sidekick who is like so eager to celebrate any advancement they get, and at the same time being kind of like a fussy grandpa whenever she does things he doesn't like.
Yeah. And honestly, I love that dynamic, and especially like if by the end they've become like begrudgingly respect each other, and he is, you know, invested. Like, oh, I love it. But unfortunately, like I mentioned before, the weakest part of the story is Wei and her journey through the palace and all of that shit. So CE is underutilized. But again, I like the other half of what the story does well. So it's kind of like choose your which. If you really wanted that, this book will annoy you. But if you like the other half, the noir investigation into the princes, you'll probably have a good time. But she's like, yo, see, the Empress also, there's this weird interaction she has with the Empress where the Empress is like, you ever heard of a heart spirit poem? And she's like, the fuck is that? What are you talking about? And the Empress is like, during the coronation, because like the other thing I have to mention is this palace has a giant dragon just wriggling above it, and it's called the crown. And when an emperor dies, the dragon goes batshit, and the new crown prince has to subdue the dragon and imbue it with their magic. Then the dragon imbues the prince with more of their magic, so now the prince is like extra amplified of magic, and now is super powerful with like a pet dragon. And why did I start telling this story? Oh, yes. So the Empress is like, you know, during the coronation, and the coronation is subduing the dragon. Like that's That's what happens. And like during this coronation, the princes cannot use literomancy against the dragon, which means that seal of invincibility and nobody can kill you except old age will go away. And then the only thing that can get into the arena where all of this is happening that is magically warded is a heart spirit poem. But it's like a poem you have to write, like, so, but you don't know anything about that, do you? And this is a weird interaction where I'm still not sure why the Empress told her this. I'm not sure. As much as I love this thing and how it plays in the rest of the book, I don't get what happened.
I don't
why this
know
happens.
if the Empress was maybe playing her own game and being like, how can I whittle down the people that are ahead in the line of succession from my child? Or if she just personally, if it is that she personally doesn't like Taryn that much, it's just never elaborated on.
Yeah. And because I thought at first, like, in a world where, like, women were allowed to read and do literomancy, I'd be like, oh, is she suggesting she writes a heart spirit poem? But, like, that's not this world. Women don't get to write heart spirit
Yeah,
poems
it's
because
such
they
a
don't get to read
weird,
or do literomancy.
like, was she trying to trick Way into trying to learn to read
Way,
so she could get rid of her? Maybe?
yeah, it's a really weird, and it's also not something that comes up. It's not like the Empress is the one who's like, Way can read later, and it's just this weird interaction. But I realize I've skipped
isn't it the
an important
Empress
scene.
who by the way of this cat's paw makes a girl accuse Way of being able to read because they have that exam thing?
No, it's the so that actually is what did I get on my face? What are all these spots? What the fuck did I do? So actually what she did is she got a girl to accuse them of not actually doing the planting. That's what
Oh,
she
that's what
accused.
she
It
did.
was Celine. Cillian was the one who accuses her of being able to read. But so there's games happening here, but it's just this, again, it's just a weird scene. But what our girl learns from this is if you write a heart spirit poem, you can kill this guy. And what has happened up to this point is Taryn has been abusing her. Where like their first evening together, when he finally summons her and she's like, no, I don't want to be planted, please, I don't want to do this. He sits her down to a table full of food and he's like, you're a poor rice farmer girl, you love food. And he makes her eat to the point of needing to throw up, and then he makes her keep eating, and then she throws
All
up,
night.
and then keep like for hours and hours and hours to the point that she is literally shaking. And it so affects her that she can't like she's kind of wary of food a little bit after this point, where like the joy, her getting to enjoy food lasts like a month and a half, maybe 2 months in the palace before Taryn just destroys this thing for her. And then from there, every time he summons her, and then like afterwards, after she finally finishes throwing up, he's like, okay, let's go to bed. And then she gets into bed and he's already asleep, turned over, so she just gets into the bed and goes to sleep. But every few days, he keeps calling her in to his chamber, but he tortures her. He'll do weird ass shit. And a lot of just terrible, like there's this point where like she gets a knife. He makes her hold like a knife, and then he's like, yeah, it's really well made. You should use it. And so she like nicks her hand because he wants her to blood it. And he's like, no, that's not where a warrior that's not how a warrior uses a blade. And she's like, I don't know. And so she goes to stab herself in the gut. And he's like, no, listen, I can heal blade wounds, but I can't like heal death blows. And so like she stabs herself in the leg. And like it's just weird. It's just shit like that. And this is where Elan's comment earlier that there needed to be less of this if you were gonna go like
it's almost like it's two
like
different people. It's so odd.
Yeah.
Because the really cruel Joffrey version of him is such a sadist, like sadist. And that just doesn't entirely vibe with a hurt child who's become mean. I mean, it's just so intensely evil.
Yes. And like for no reason. It's not like it's only when shit happens that he then goes like to the nth degree, because like you can be cruel and like unreasonably cruel and have people hate you because your idea of punishments are so much worse than they need to be, or because you're like when you get insulted it's
This
way
is like he's
worse.
just
But like
entertaining himself by
way
hurting her.
yes. And I think you're right, where if there had been less moments of this in the beginning, but kind of consistently scattered throughout, where like specific things, like maybe she oversteps and then he hurts her and she has to start learning like what the pressure points are and kind of navigate that. But it's just real shitty. And so she's like, I can't let this guy become emperor, and he's a tyrant and he will destroy the nation. She's like, I am going to learn how to read and learn how to do literomancy, and I will write the heart spirit poem and I will kill him. And she's like, so she goes to C and she's like, C, for you to be my head scribe, you need to teach me how to read. And he's like, yo, that's hella illegal. And she's like, do you want to be head scribe or not, to the Empress? And he's like, I really do. So he teaches her how to read, and not just read, but he also starts like educating her, giving her a lot of like books and things to read. And there's moments where she talks about like reading about poets falling in love with Tensha and like the countryside and stuff like that, and beginning to understand things. And by virtue of like the Prince Terran has a eunuch named Hessen, and she watches Hessen deal with a lot of like people that come to complain, or you know, like Hessen is trying to forge alliances on behalf of Terran, but also has to deal with people being pissed, and she watches him maneuver people, and she's like, wow, Hessen's
And
really
the more
smart.
she reads, the more she starts to understand all these terms, and suddenly what men talk about in the court begins to actually mean something to her, and she's like, oh, there are dynamics of power happening all around.
And you know, important things that I just had no idea what they were, like and like political, not even political, but like crisis is happening across the kingdom that she didn't understand, that she's kind of putting together. And she learns how to do literomancy by copying spells, because she sometimes when she goes in with Terran, he's just writing literomancy blessings, and he'll like do it a lot, and he actually loves writing poetry. It's one of the first things that she kind of realizes about him, that isn't, you know, he's a terrible, awful, shitty human. And at this point in the book, you're like, fuck that guy, end him now. But to write a heart spirit poem, you have to get to know the person that you are writing it about. It is essentially a love poem to result in death, but like there has to be genuine feeling, but it also needs to intimately understand who it's written about. Like it has to reflect the core of that person, which is why only someone who can love them can write this poem. And she's like, fuck, I need to get to know
at this point I was like, so she basically has to do a Stockholm syndrome to herself in order to write this. I was like, this is not going to work, because he has been so utterly detestable, like so completely irredeemable, that to love him would be a kind of madness. And the book does in later, in how it unfolds and how the interpretation of love kind of goes, does a middle way of this, where it doesn't have to be just throw your brain out the window and magic yourself into loving someone.
Yes. And I would say, because I had the same thought where I was like, ugh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch her fall in love with him. And you really don't. You watch her begin to understand what brought him here and begin to develop feelings for the child he was, and like that lost happiness and youth and what was taken from him. And like, so it kind of goes
more
that
kind
route.
I would argue that it's more a mourning for the person he was and the person
Yes.
he could have been than any
Yes.
actual love. But the book tells us it suffices, so it does.
Yeah. Um and it also asks you to think about love differently a little bit, which I think you're right. I think mourning is like the really correct way to
Yeah,
think about it.
and just basal
But yeah, so
empathy.
she starts having to like learn. Yes. Empathy is actually the perfect way of thinking about it. The poem asks you to genuinely, and I mean genuinely, empathize with the person you're writing it about. So it's hard to write a heart spirit poem. That's fucking hard, because how do you write one and then at the end of it still want to kill the guy? You know, it's kind of like you have to really want to kill someone by the time you finish writing it for it to work. But also you genuinely have to have that empathy, because if you write one and you don't have the empathy, it doesn't work. Like, it's not gonna light up and be magical. But she has to start learning. So she starts asking Hessen, because Hessen has been with Taryn for years and is the only person she can think of that's loyal. And she starts talking to Hessen, and she's honest. She's like, he beats me and he's really cruel and he's doing all this stuff. How can you work for him? And he's like, listen, babe, I'm not loyal to Taryn. I'm loyal to the nation. I literally have a tattoo, like, curse blessing that means I have to work for Tensha's best interest. I am loyal to the nation, and since he was crowned prince, I have to be loyal to him, whether personally. And you get the vibe that he does not like Taryn personally, but he's gonna do this thing. And we learn the first version of Taryn's childhood, and we're gonna get two distinct, like, tellings of his childhood, and then we're going to get a couple of different, like, we're going to get some pieces filled in and some other understandings, and then eventually we hear from Taryn himself. And basically what you learn from Hessen is Taryn was a really, really sensitive, small crybaby kid, a real little sad boy, you know, wasn't a big talker. And one of the first stories that you and he loved his brother. He was super close to Morrow. Like, these two were besties. And Hessen actually had a hand in that, where Hessen, this is like his second emperor. The first emperor he served was the Muja, which is the current emperor's father. And that guy was terrible. He was not a good emperor. And he kind of like fucked his nation a little bit. And he ends up dying. He doesn't end up dying. He's such a bad emperor that his one son kills him and kills the entire everybody else and takes the throne. And Musha takes it, and Hessen is like, yo, buddy, that's really fucked up. Why did you do that? And Muja's like, nope, it was for the good of the nation. But Muja also, because he killed all of the other seal-bearing princes, he now has to use his magic alone to support the kingdom, and it's not enough. And there's this thing that we learn about where if you overuse your magic, it affects you on a physical level with a type of sickness. And even though Muja's magic is amplified by the dragon and being emperor, even he's gone too far, to the point where there's this, but he also won't have kids. He's like, if I have kids, they'll do what I did to my father, so I'm just not doing it. And everybody's like, please fucking have children. If you die, we're fucked. We need seal-bearing princes, and we need a new emperor. And he won't do it. And then one day he's flying on the crown, but he's used too much of his magic, and he literally falls off and nearly dies. And then afterwards he was like, yo, Hessen, as I was like almost dead, I thought to myself, are people gonna remember me as an idiot? Because, like, I didn't have any kids? And Hessen was like, yeah, bro. What are you talking about? And he's like, and Hessen's like, you need to stop using your magic and
Breeding.
you need to just start planting women, which is their term. Yeah, just breed, buddy. And he's like, but if I stop using my magic, then, you know, he's been holding the nation together via his magic and trying to, like, keep this other nation from taking land and all this stuff. And Hessen's like, listen, we're just gonna have to sacrifice some shit. You're gonna stop using your magic. Okay, we'll lose the northern area. Okay, we'll lose these trade routes in the south. That's fine. Tensha will be smaller, but it will still exist. And then we'll get some seal-bearing princes, and they will fix this problem for us. And so the emperor stops using his magic, and he's like old and kind of crippled at this point, and they just get a ton of women in, and they just start, women are going in, and we start getting babies. Morrow, Terran, Esau, nobody knows what their powers are just yet. But Hessen comes from a background of seeing instead of working together for the better of the nation, what fighting in your family does. And he works for Muja because it's his emperor, but he kind of hates him for what he did and like how he handled all of this. And also he wanted to go echo step with the previous emperor, which is when the emperor dies, people say, who wants to go echo step into death with him? And he wanted to do that. He really liked that other emperor, even though he wasn't like the greatest emperor. Like they were like boyhood friends kind of thing. And Muja's like, no, you need to serve me. You don't get to go echo step. And he's like, fuck this guy. And so as Hessen is watching the little Bebeto princes grow up, he's like, let's not isolate them. Let's let them be friends. So he says, hey, I think Terran and Morrow should come together and do their learning and stuff in the Peach Pavilion, and where all the peach trees are, and let them be friends. And they do, and they love each other. And he's very happy. He's like, maybe I've done it. Maybe I can like keep these guys from fighting against each other and like ruining everything. And he talks about this point where one day Terran comes to him very upset and asks him, and he takes him to a koi pond, and there is a little fish that has been cut by something, and it's dying. And Terran is so upset that it's dying. And Hessen's like, sweet baby boy, this happens. 'Tis life. And also, it's a fish. It doesn't know. And Terran's like, no. Like, it's... And he basically, because there's a lot of stories, and you hear this one song get sung about, like, the fish...
who cannot...
Pity the fish. Yeah.
Fly amongst the leaves, and who is stuck in its pond and such on.
And the trees. Yeah. And basically, like, pity
the fish for its limitations as a fish.
No. Yes. And Terran's like, no, the fish isn't to be pitied. He has such empathy for this creature, and he writes a poem because he is like super smart. He's like a scared little tiny guy that nobody really likes except for his brother. But he writes a poem that says, don't pity the fish. The fish can look out, see all this stuff, and can be happy, and it is worth in and of itself.
Tiny, joyous, bursting life that has infinite meaning.
Life. And the poem that he writes is so powerful and packed with emotion that it turns into a literomancy blessing. And the fish comes back to life. It's healed. He's healed this fish. And Hessen is like, oh my God, look at this little Bebeto who loved this fish so much and understood a truth about, this little life, brought it back. And he's like, wow, that's awesome. But the problem is, Prince Morrow has not written his first blessing.
And he's like,
and so
he's like the old age of like 7 at this point, and he hasn't written a blessing.
Yes.
God, can you imagine?
Just throw him away. And everybody's like, oh, I guess Terran's the better prince. And it causes a rift between them where he sees that this thing has... Morrow pulls away from Terran and, keeps... But eventually, Morrow does write a blessing, but the boys don't hang out a ton again for a while. And then once Morrow's seal comes in, and it's the, like...
terraforming. I can't remember.
Road terraforming. Yeah, the terraforming seal.
The emperor is like, we shall restore the kingdom. Or you shall restore the kingdom, Morrow.
Yes.
All by yourself.
And you need to go and create a salt trade route through these like mountains to enrich the city by yourself. And he sends Morrow, and Morrow is trying so hard because when and I'm not going to go into it, we'll get... it's Hessen's version. So Hessen says, like, Morrow goes off, Terran's really sad once, and Hessen talks about how Terran had his like emotional support toys, which was a little really ratty white tiger, a shell that he called Nunu, and it was a little snail, and then like a little feather, and he called Sparrow. And these were his like emotional. He took them everywhere, but when he was playing with Morrow, he would leave them, and then he would come to Hessen and be like, "Hey, will you take care of them?" and leave it on his desk. And then at the end of playing, he'd come back and get them. And then one day he just left them and didn't come back for them. But then once Morrow and Terran have the falling out, and Morrow goes off on his campaign, Terran comes back for his emotional support toys, which everyone is upset about because now Terran is 7, and they're like,
yeah, why is he acting like a baby?
Too big to be playing with these little. Yeah, fuck this kid. And Hessen's like, you know what? Let me send Terran to go with his brother on this thing. Like, I think it would be good to let the boys reconnect. And then he's like, and then when they came back, they were more isolated from each other than ever, and they never spoke to each other or reconnected ever again. So whatever happened, he doesn't know what happened on that campaign, except that while on the campaign, Terran gets his symbol, fills in as the Tao symbol, and then his father decides to send him on war campaigns. But the two brothers never reconnect back after that, and he's not sure why. And then Terran comes back from war, and he's being an ass. He's killing animals and birds. He's killing servants for the slightest error. He's killing people, and there's like a sense of violence.
He poisons to the point all the carps in the pond is the story, and also one day he kills
one of Hessen's best friends. He was one of the eunuchs, and he kills him and rips his body apart
to
and
20
lays it outside
pieces.
Hessen's door for Hessen to see.
Earlier the same day,
yes,
the colleague had told Hessen that, you know, the prince isn't maybe isn't suitable for the crown. Yeah. And then later they killed.
And then that day they find his body, and he's like, fuck Terran. So he's like, we need to get rid of this guy. He goes to Morrow and he's like, Morrow, you need to do something about your brother. And Morrow's like, I can't do anything. Talk to his mom. And like Terran and his mom don't have from the story we're told from Hessen, don't have a great relationship. But he goes to Lady Autumn and he's like, yo, your son is acting batshit. You need to get things in line. And she's like, okay, I'll go talk to him. And then she's killed, and Terran's killed his mother. And he's like, oh fuck, we're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
We're screwed. Like the nation is in trouble.
And then any emotional purchase on him.
Yeah. And then a while after, the emperor names him crown prince, and here the fuck we are, and she's like, yo, how did he go from such a sweet kid who like cried and wrote a poem about a carp to that?
And she's like, how are these two even the same person? And that was exactly what I was thinking at that moment. I was like, these two aren't the same person.
No, this does not make sense at all. And so she begins to write her heart spirit poem based on that. She's learning some like literomancy stuff in the background. She's continuing that stuff. But then there's a rumor that like somebody says, we don't think Wei and Terran are actually doing the breeding. We think that she's been lying this whole time, which she has. They have not done anything. While he has tortured her physically a lot,
he just wants to sleep when he's had his fun.
Yes, after torturing her. That's it. So she's like, oh, shit, because they're like, there's going to be a doctor's going to come and examine you. And she's like, oh, shit. So she has to write a letter. She asks Pima, her scribe guy, to write a letter to Terran being like, hey, I miss you so much. I'm going to die. Please summon me tonight. And she comes in and he's like, so you missed me so much you are going to die, hey? And she's like, somebody has spread a rumor that we're not doing the do, and they're going to physically examine me. And she doesn't know what they're going to look for, but she's like, we need to do it. Like, I don't want to do it, but we need to do it. Like, we're just going to have to figure this out. And starts drinking. He starts drinking.
He's a soldier going to war, and he's gotta be boozed up before he's gonna do it.
Yeah, to the point where he's laying in bed and he is so out of it. She's like, okay, I've got to do it. And she gets on top of him and she starts undoing his robe and she sees these weird three-pronged scars on him, like a bird with metal feet walked across his chest. And as she gets lower and she gets close to the groin area, he wakes up enough and like a knife from the ceiling flies to her throat and he goes, if you touch me I will kill you. And she's like, oh fuck, I can't do this. And he fucks off. He runs away. And she's like, oh my god, I'm going to die tomorrow. And not only will she die, and the reason Taryn was even willing to deal with this was because not only would she be beheaded, but he would be removed from being crown prince. Like, this is this serious of an offense to not be doing the breeding. Like, so serious of an offense it would. And so that's why he like tried. He was like, okay, let me get drunk and just grit. And you're like, why does he have this strong of a reaction to this? This is like a crazy reaction. Like, what is happening here? And she's like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? I don't even fucking know. So she's like, during those concubine lessons where they were teaching us the art of the sex, they kept using bamboo sticks. And she's like, maybe I can just. And she's like, is there like a magic glow that shows that you've been planted or something? Like, how do we figure this out? And she's like, fuck it. She goes into the forest, like she gets a bamboo stick of an appropriate size, and she mimics the act
Rather
with the bamboo
violently
stick.
and horribly, because she doesn't know what the doctor's gonna look like after. So she just does it like a butcher, just to be sure, until she cannot stand it anymore,
like,
and she kind of hobbles home all broken.
Home. And the next morning, they take her into like the grand main hall. They lay her out. Taryn's there, looking guilty as fuck in the corner. And the like she's laid out on a table while the doctor's like, oh no, look, she's actually quite torn up down there. They're fine. They've been doing it. We're all good. Everyone's. And she's like, oh, thank God. Oh God. And then she ends up finding out who made the accusation against her, which was the niece of the Empress. And Taryn, when he realizes who did it, because the next day, he's like, who was it? Like, who did you do it with? And she's scared. She's like, what is he? Because she doesn't know how he's going to react. And he's like, oh, look, I don't care. I just want to know who else knows about this. And she goes, oh, in that case, no one. It was me. I did it to myself. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, but who the fuck would make such a rumor? And by this point, she's figured out that it was Sun Soon something.
Jae?
I forgot what her name is. Sun Jia, I think. Yeah, something like that. And she's like, it was that girl, and it's the niece of the Empress. And he's like, okay, we're gonna punish this bitch. And previously, when she had been poisoned, and it hadn't, like, she knew who poisoned or who tried to poison her earlier, but she didn't do anything against it. And C is like, see, this what's what happens when you don't punish the people who go against you. People think they can get away with shit. So when Taryn's like, let's go punish this, shit talking bitch, she's like, oh, okay, I guess we'll see. You said this needs to happen. So they get everyone
and
together,
for a
and
moment,
they're like,
she's also thinking about how the doctor kind of prodding her in front of all these people made her feel so dirty and violated, like viscerally, like she had to dissociate in order to endure it. So she's like, all right, let's go punish her.
Fuck it. Like, not only did I have to go into the woods and bamboo myself,
Yeah,
but then that
and in
happened.
front of
She's got
everyone.
she's got some anger. Yeah, she's got some anger. So they go, and then Sunya's like, yes, I did. And I have no guilt about it, because if she's not performing her duty, then, and I'm so glad she is. But what Sunya didn't realize was that, like, by implicating her, she was also implicating the prince, and that because like Sunya wants to become empress, and she's a concubine to him, so she rises the concubines of a specific prince rise and fall with that prince. So if he gets like thrown out as crown prince, then like suddenly you're not concubine to a crown prince anymore, and it's a shittier position. And so she didn't think through the accusation of threatening him, and he's like, okay, well, for spreading false rumors, you get your tongue cut out. And she's like, no, please. If you cut out someone's tongue, a woman's tongue, she becomes an animal because we can't read, we can't write. Like, there's no way to communicate.
Think about who I am. Counter this to me.
Yeah, my father has so many. He has like one of the largest armies. You're gonna do that, and he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit who your dad is. And he's like, Wei, you do it, and hands Wei the knife, and Wei's like, yo, I was prepared for shit to go down, but I wasn't prepared to do it myself. But Wei's like, she's committed now, so she takes out this girl's tongue, and she's like, oh, that was fucked up. And then the Empress is like, fuck you, bitch, you took my, I'm coming for you. And then she realizes, oh, it was the Empress who put, because the Empress hates Taryn. The Empress doesn't want Taryn to be like, you get rid of that guy. But she didn't think that would happen, and she's
why the Empress didn't think that would happen is beyond me, because she knows. She thought he would be deposed, and yeah, the Empress thought there was no way. Okay, yeah, that does make sense. But going back to when Wei actually does the tongue cutting, because that was one of those moments where I was thinking that the author was building to this arc of Wei, by virtue of not having grown up in the palace, by virtue of having real foundations and morals, like she would not be able to conscience herself to doing it. She would find another way. So I was really surprised when she did it, and I was like, okay, is this going to be the story of how she is like how she can't escape being corrupted by the palace politics? And in a way, that is kind of where we're going, but not as consciously as I was expecting it to be, since that was the choice we made. Yeah.
Given this. Because there is another point where she has to make a similar decision, and she does do what you're talking about, like what your expectation was of choosing like the third pass to kind of get out of it without anyone dying. But like in this moment, she has
and the difference is in that other instance, it is a servant, and she chooses to risk everything to save a servant. But when it was a privileged person who thought they were safe, she decides to go through with it, which on a meta-narrative sort of level, it's like, okay, so because you're choosing your class, you aren't actually choosing any moral high ground, or you are being vengeful and wanting to punish those who have done bad to you instead of making things better, which is valid. Like, we can have a main character who isn't entirely good. It's just that the book needs to know.
Yes. And unfortunately, I think you're right, where the book isn't being conscious with this in this moment and how it like kind of plays into that narrative. But it is an affecting scene.
Yeah.
Like just as you're reading it. But I was like, I don't in and of itself love the scene and how it plays into everything else. But after this, so everyone kind of is like ignoring her now, like whenever she like goes and does stuff. But there's this like big celebration that happens where they get to go out of the palace, and she has also become friends with her servants. And her servants have decided, she's also teaching some of the other servants, like the ladies, to read, and some of the men servants who couldn't read. And so like everybody's kind of working together, and they were very distant from her at first because of how terrible Taryn is. But they kind of pulled together. And so this particular celebration, all of the concubines are going to kind of go through the street, and all of the ladies of the palace are going to go through the streets giving gifts and stuff like that. And so some people are like doing really cool fancy stuff and like fireworks, but she is handing out rice and something else, maybe like
Yeah.
soybeans or something. I don't remember what it was, but like sustenance. And specifically targeting, like, they see like a poor child like who's kind of starving, and she thinks about the fact that, like, because people are like, the famine doesn't affect the capital, and like while it doesn't, there are still
Hmm.
poor
It
people
doesn't
and
affect the
people who are
capital, but it
starving. It's just
affects
harder to
certain
see.
people within the capital. And the thing with the higher class is that they don't
Exactly.
see that. They just see the plentiful. They just see the upper crust, sort of, in ways like not.
Yeah.
I had fewer visitors to my wagon, but the ones that we did reach really needed us, and we're very grateful.
Yeah. And it's and everybody else is like, oh, look at you with your shitty gifts. And meanwhile, her and her staff literally were like, how can we eat less so we can save up? Because she couldn't ask Taryn
Hmm.
for shit. Like, he wasn't going to do anything for this. So her and her entire like staff of servants like ate less, and her, like, they fucked with the numbers to
And
get a
it's
little
such
bit
a
more
nice
rice
thing
in
to
for,
do.
and they,
Like, we're back on
yes,
the let's make the world better train now. And it's
better.
genuine. It feels genuine. It's
And
very
it's
like they skimped on their own meals for months in order to save up this small, because she can't ask Taryn to give away rice and stuff because he would just, cut her fingers off or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Drown,
something
waterboard her for
asshole-ish
15
and
hours.
abusive. Yeah, yeah, something like that. And it's just such a, and again, it's these, where if this had been Way's story and we got more moments like this, it would have been really good. But again, so much of this is not about Way herself. So it's moments like, and again, it's what makes the moment where she cuts somebody's tongue out and then the
Mhm.
next major thing is this feel a little dissonant with each other. But yeah, so and all the other ladies that are like, look at you, you shitty farm rice girl with your handing rice out to people. But like, she is making an impact. And
Yeah, and after this, she gets the moniker of Rice Wife.
yes. The other thing that happens is, oh, I forgot. Prior to all of this happening, her one scribe is attacked by Taryn and is dying. And this is the first moment that she uses literomancy to heal him, because she's watched the spells that he uses to heal her wounds that he inflicts. But she's like, man, we can't let him know he's been healed. So she's like, hey, tell everyone, because Ren is the other servant there, and she's like, tell everyone that Pima's died, hide Pima until he's better enough to leave, and have him go back to the capital. And she learns about Pima on this pilgrimage that like everybody's being really shitty to him. Like, his family is like, oh, you should have died and then at least we would have gotten money. You've just come back like
While
a
you were a
coward.
scribe, you were getting a
And
salary,
so
you were
he,
supporting your
despite,
family, and now you're just being useless, which is really sad, but
and
accurate.
so yeah, it's because he's like
Yeah.
survived a terrible thing, and so she has some guilt about that. But that's kind of what helped her bond with all of her, like Ren realizing that she would be helpful, and then she teaches them all how to read, and it kind of leads up to this point. But Pima, now being a scribe who's unemployed outside of the palace, he watches her give this rice away to people and do this thing, and he starts writing about her as the rice wife. And that becomes like her, like the myth around her. But the other thing that happens this night is while they're out at this one place, she ends up talking to Lady Song slash Cillian. That's her first name, her like used name or given name. Song's her last name. And Lady Song is Morrow's wife. Morrow doesn't have a lot of concubines. He
And for a
liked
long
Cillian
time,
and he
he
married
refused
her, and
concubines
this is,
entirely. Like, he didn't visit them because it was said that he loved her so much.
yeah. It's very nice. Like, I love it. I love a man who loves his wife kind of idea. But she befriends Song, and she's like, hey, let's meet up. And basically she's like, Song, I want to put Morrow on the throne. and I need your help. And she confesses everything. She tells her, because she's like, I can rely on the fact that Song wants to be emperor and wants Morrow to become empress to get her to help me. And she says, I can read, I can do literomancy, and I'm going to write a heart spirit poem. But to do that, I need Morrow's version of the story. So if you can tell me, and she's like, oh, babes, I got you. I have his childhood journals. He hates them. He buried them in the floorboards of his study. Come over one night. And so she sneaks over. They go in, they get the journals from under the floorboards, and she's like, here, hopefully this helps you. And
Oh,
she
before
reads
we move
Morrow's
on,
version.
can I just ask a question? Because this is something I felt like I missed out on.
Yes.
Because as the story progresses, and we see more and more of what happened between the brothers and what happened behind the scenes that Yasun wasn't aware of when he told his story of what Taran has done since he turned bad. Like, a lot of the killings that he made were explained in ways that sort of made sense to them. But was it ever sort of explained what had happened to put him in such a foul mood the day he hurt the scribe so badly? No, I didn't just miss it.
No, people in the chat, do you guys remember if anything specific happened that made him hurt the scribe that badly that one night? I know what makes him kill all of the rest of her staff that other night. I remember that one, but I don't remember there being a reason why he hurt Pima.
How close in proximity was it to the examination of her?
I don't remember.
Could he have been residually pissed? I don't know. It just feels like the book.
No. So Saint Jen, different scribe. So Saint Jen says Taran didn't kill the scribe. He was framed by Morrow. We're talking about Pima. When he attacks Pima, was there a specific reason why he attacked Pima and hurt him? Because we're told that he does this all the time. If he gets pissed off about something, he takes it out. Oh yeah, I think that's what it. He lost an ally.
Oh yeah,
that was it. Fuck yes, thank you, Saint Jen.
Because of
there was an important
and it was probably like because of cutting out the tongue of the Emperor's cousin, or the Emperor's niece, the Empress's niece.
Yes, I think that's exactly
that was probably it. And at that time, he was mulling over like who he was going to have on his side for his subduing of the crown and so on, so on. Okay,
all that jazz. And so yeah, that's what that was. Perfect. So she gets the diaries from Cillian, and now she gets Morrow's version of the story. And this kind of gets separated. We kind of got Hessen's all at once because he didn't have a lot, but Morrow's kind of gets split over a couple of chapters.
And it was so frustrating because we got a little bit, and I just wanted to keep knowing, but instead we sort of jumped back to Wei, and she did things in her narrative that felt like sometimes she acted in ways as if she hadn't read what we just heard. I don't know. It was a little discombobulated for me, and I just wanted to hear more about Morrow and Taran.
Yeah, and the reason I think they do this is she's trying to hold until this certain point this last story to kind of give weight to something like the last explanation. And so she kind of parses out what happens at like Morrow's version of events. But you're right. It is really like every time it would switch back, I would be like, oh, I just want to figure out like the rest of this. And basically, Morrow's story is him and Taran best buds. He loved Taran because Taran was the only person who didn't want something from him and who didn't like put pressure on him. He just got to be like the cool older brother and he loved that. And he would like steal mung bean cakes when Taran was too little to get them from the table. He would steal them from Taran and give it to them, and they would play. And they would play dueling couplets, and he would often one of the things Hessen talked about was when Morrow would play swords with little tiny baby Taran, and everyone would be like, leave Taran alone, he's too little. And in Morrow's head is like, no, it's not about winning or losing, like we're just having, like in his mind it was like a good thing. And then they talk about like this one tree getting a broken branch, and Hessen thinks it's for one reason, but it's actually because Morrow and Terran would always climb it together, where Terran would hold on to Morrow's back, and Terran tries to do it himself, and he like brains himself and falls out of the tree and breaks a branch. And it's one of the first times in the story where Wei goes, "Oh, that's not how Hessen thought it happened." And then you get Morrow, like after Terran writes his blessing, and Morrow's mother's disappointment and his tutor's disappointment. And Morrow has one tutor, Master Ganji, who's like, "Fuck your brother, we're gonna kill him." Like out the gate. And Morrow's like, "No, I love my brother." And Morrow in his head has heard stories of what families are supposed to be like, where everybody lives in one house and everybody takes care of each other, and he wants that so badly. He hates this pressure to be shitty towards each other, and this lack of closeness, and how he never sees his father, and everybody's pushing him, and his mom's like, "No, everything must go the way we'd like it to," and this whole thing. And he gloms on to Terran once Hessen tells them that they can play together at that Peach Palace. And at one point he tells Terran, like, family keeps each other safe. Like, that's what we do. That's what I will do for you. I'll take care of you. But after Terran does the blessing, his mom is like, "Oh my God, you're not cool enough. How you need to do this." And like everybody's like, "Wow." And Morrow hears people talking about how cool Terran is, because at first everybody was like, "We fucking hate Terran, that crybaby little princeling, fuck that guy." And everybody's like, "Wow, we've never had a prince write a blessing
and suddenly
so young."
everyone is like,
and Morrow,
"Why hasn't Morrow done it yet? He's a lot older. Is there something wrong with him?"
And it's so interesting, and also because Morrow takes it as him being worthless, and there's this huge thing. So Saint Jen, actually, I'm going to highlight this because I just saw this. Saint Jen makes a great point. I thought Morrow's account of Terran getting hurt from falling from the tree was also false, and it was implied that his mother was abusing him. I highly believe that. And then to further the emphasis on no single person has all the truth,
Absolutely.
which completely
Agree.
makes sense. And because that's a huge thing in this story, is the idea of the truth and how to come to it, and like all the ways that Wei has to circle around what happened to Terran to find out
it's
who
like
is.
the one theme that this book has. It is like the shades of truth, and how one person cannot have a comprehensive truth, how truth is both an individual thing, but also something that is skewed by perception. I also want to, the book never says this, but I thought there was a hint of Morrow describing that he loved his brother because his brother never asked anything of him. I thought there was also just a tiny bit of hint of the early emergence of Morrow's personality, in which, like, usually you wouldn't say, "I love this person because they do this for me." You just love them. And that's the first hint of maybe Terran sort of filled a function for Morrow, and the point where he stopped loving him was when he refused to stay in that sort of safe role.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're completely correct. I think that's one of Morrow's like fundamental things, is because he talks about how when he gets his own friends, he also stops playing with Terran, and like when he gets other people that he wants, like he's less concerned. And it's only once those people leave that he's like, "Man, I wish my brother was here to play with." And so there is kind of this, what he gets from Terran and what Terran allows him to feel like, that plays into their relationship, that also hits later to how he reacts to certain
like
things.
Another puzzle piece in how the entire empirical family, imperial, blah, ESL
Imperial.
people, ESL, imperial family kind of appreciates and perceives each other's as functions, kind of like subconsciously. everyone does this except Terran, and that's why he was so severely hurt by it.
Hurt and punished because he just genuinely loved. Um, and it's actually funny because there's this point where you learn that older Morrow, tries to write a heart spirit poem for
Mm.
Terran, and it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I think that's connected to this. Like he doesn't have. So I do do do. Blah, 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 blah. The brothers. So Morrow's real upset. Big feels about Terran being like writing the blessing, and so he shuts himself up for months to try write his own. And his father says, "Hey, there's going to be this celebration that happens, and Morrow is going to do a blessing," which is basically his father giving him a timeline for when he needs to be able to do this. And he's working like a dog. And Terran keeps coming and being like, "Morrow, come play with me," and he's like, I can't do it. You got to leave me alone." And then there's this one night where Morrow, it's like 2 nights before the thing, and Morrow is talking to Terran. And Terran's like outside the window trying, and Morrow's like, "No, I need to do this." And he's talking about like all of the feelings inside him about feeling like he's being shoved into this position that it might not necessarily be what he needs, and like all of this stuff. And Terran, like hanging outside the window, is like, Morrow, capture it, like capture that. And Amaro doesn't get what he means, and Terran's like, put it in the poem, like, and he's basically telling him that feeling that needs to be in your poem. Your literamancy poems have to come from a genuine, and this little tiny babito hanging out the window helps his brother's describing a feeling helps him kind of figure that out. And he's so happy and excited, and he writes this poem and he performs it in the palace, and like trees. He basically makes a plant map of Tensha in this hall, and it's incredible and beautiful. And Terran's next to him, and his father's like, "Great job. This will be my battle room from now on." And everybody's so happy. And then narrator Way is like, "But that's not actually how it happened. That's just how he wished it had happened." And what you learned is he does do the spell, and or the literamancy blessing, and it does go well, and it's beautiful. But then people are like, "We don't think he did it by himself. We saw Terran go to his pavilion, and we think Terran wrote it." And so all of his joy in this moment is taken, and it's and applied to Terran, and it makes him angry with his little brother. And there's multiple points where Terran does stuff that upsets him, and Terran will be like, I'm sorry," and his brother will say it 3 times and I'll forgive you, kind of thing. And this is another one of those moments, and he's so upset, and Terran is so sad, and he gets angry with Terran. But then Terran starts crying and was like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "I believe," because like Terran's he says to Terran, "Did you know that this is like, did you do this on purpose?"
It's
And
like, what do
Terran's
you
like,
mean, bro?
"No." He's a baby.
Yeah.
He's like 7. He's like, "No." And then he's like, "I believe you, but I'm not going to play with you anymore." And you're just like, "Oh fuck, that's really sad." So the boys separate. Terran goes
And
back to
Mara
being a sad sack potato boy. And then Mara,
withholds his love and his company as a kind of punishment for how he is feeling, even though he
punishment.
says, "I believe you didn't set me up." And it's such. Now that we're talking about it, it is actually a really good way that the author gives little breadcrumbs of how the benign, beautiful, great prince isn't perfect, and even though he is also a
Perfect.
victim and not an ultimately evil guy, he is also unsavory in unspoken ways. And maybe because he is damaged by the imperial family and his upbringing, or maybe it's a deficiency in him, we don't know.
Yeah, and you're completely correct. It really does play into why Morrow acts, because how I want the story to end would require changing this a little bit, or at least you could leave it this way and then have Terran react in a slightly different way. But so they disengage from each other. And then Morrow gets his seal and everybody's so happy, and his father sends him off on a thing, and he has to like barrel his way through this mountain to create the salt path. And after a couple of months, oh, also I have to mention his tutor, Master Ganji, is like, after this whole thing happens, when everybody was like, your brother helped you, you didn't write it by yourself, Master Ganji's like, see, I told you, him and his family, they're working against you, they hate you, that we need to, like, this is why we have to act against them. And like, as much as he's like, but I actually like my brother, like, and I like all that stuff. There's this voice in his ear, and
it's
he's
so
like,
disgusting how adults
they're just
act
pecking away at him
in this book.
Yeah, and Ganji is like the worst. Like, there's this point where you find out he's dead, and I was like, I would have liked to have seen him die. I would have liked that painfully. But then his brother gets sent onto his mission with him. Like, after a couple of months, his mother and his brother and his and Taryn's mom come, and Ganji's like, why would they do this? Oh, fuck that. And then he's like, no, oh my gosh, like, my brother's coming. And he's so happy to see his brother. He's so happy to see his brother because he is bored out of his mind. There's no other kids. He's being used and forced to work endless, very tiring hours. And he also puts a lot of it on himself, just like he did with trying to get that blessing, where he'll really push himself to try, get where he needs to go. And then, so when Taryn comes, he's like, oh, thank God, someone to play with. And he wants to play, but like, he doesn't know, like, Taryn brings like mung bean cakes, and there's so many times where little baby Taryn tries to do stuff for Morrow, but because Morrow doesn't genuinely love Taryn in like the same way that Taryn loves him, he never reacts to the gifts it never touches him. Like, Taryn will be like, I brought you mung bean cakes. And he's like, oh, yeah, you like the mung bean cakes. I didn't like them. You eat them. And Taryn's like, oh.
After he looks at them and he's like, they look a little stale and broken. Why don't you eat them?
Yeah. Why don't you eat them? And then Taryn's like, I brought our swords, like our play swords, so we can spar. I've started sparring. And he's like, I don't use wooden swords anymore. I use steel swords. And Taryn's like, oh, okay. And then as Taryn's unpacking, because Morrow's like, let's room together. We're going to room together because I want to be a family. I want this. He wants the family that he's heard about in these stories from his childhood. And he's like, this will be my moment. Taryn and I will live together. We'll room together and be able to have that. And Taryn brings the little tiger toy, the New toy, which is the little shell, the fossilized shell, and the little feather. And Morrow's like, why do you have your baby toys? And Taryn is immediately like, yeah, why do I have them? And he shoves them under the covers because he was lovingly putting them on the bedside table. And Morrow realizes he's hurt Taryn by saying this. And he's like, no, it's okay. Let's bring them out. And he's like, and he takes them and he puts them out and he's like, I've missed, seeing Tiger. I'd love to see her. It's great. She's here, kind of thing. And they're like, okay. And they're once again bonding, doing this whole thing. But then one day, while Morrow is out working, he keeps getting these headaches and he passes out. And they bring him back to his room and there's a doctor there like, yo, this is magic sickness. Like, he's using too much of his magic and he's so young. He's being forced to use some of it so young. He will die. We need to scale back real hard right now. And his master Ganji's like, no. He needs to continue. This is a vital opportunity.
Imagine the blows to his reputation.
Yes, the emperor might name a different son crown prince. We cannot do this, Morrow. And then he's like, but like, and the way Morrow takes this is that he just doesn't have enough magic. That like, if he was a better prince, he would have more magic to be able to support all of this. If
he had more magic, he would just move this mountain at the mature age of like 11. I don't remember how old he is.
11.
But he's a baby.
Yeah.
No.
But it's not that old.
Yeah, he's a baby.
He's a baby though. And he's being forced like every day. Like, he's literally drilling through mountains and it's hard and the rock's hard and he's using so much magic. And the doctor's like, if he starts coughing blood, you need that. Like, that's if he starts coughing blood, he's on the knife edge of death. You need to, and because basically Ganji's like, no, we're not. And the doctor's like, I don't work for you, Ganji. I work for the crown. I work for the family. And so Ganji goes, Maro, you're gonna. They all both turn to Maro, and Maro's like, I go with Ganji. I pick him because I don't want people to know I'm worthless. So again, that insecurity planted by Terran being like doing the thing, and immediately like him going from feeling like top of the world crown prince to thinking he's worthless pops back up now. He got his power, he was back on top, feeling great, and now he learns I don't have enough magic. I'm gonna, because Ganji's like, all we need is for him to survive long enough to become crown prince. And then once he, to become the emperor, because once he subdues the dragon will imbue him with more power and he'll be fine. So we
he
just
can
gotta
work
survive
miracles
until
after.
then.
Just
and so
calm
we're just
down.
Gonna lie. Yeah. And so Maro's like, okay, yeah, let's do that. But unbeknownst to everyone, Terran was hiding under his bed in the room, and he didn't mean to be, but he heard it all, and he's like, Maro, don't do this. And Maro's like, if you tell anyone, I will never forgive you. And he's like, okay, I won't tell anyone, Maro. And Maro keeps working, and then one day his headache gets really bad, and he passes out, and he starts coughing blood, and the doctor's like, yo, we need to be really careful. We can't do this. And Maro's like, no, I'm going to keep going. And he goes back to work, and Terran goes with him and is like, no, Maro, please. Oh, no, the doctor isn't even called in, but Maro coughs up blood. Terran sees it and is like, we need to tell the doctor you're going to die. And Maro's like, no, how dare you? And he's like, family protects each other. Family keeps each other safe. And he's like, I don't need you to protect me. And so he goes back to work, and he's trying to drill through. But the other thing is, he's just found out his mother has died. Like they got a message that his mom died, and he's like, if I was better, if I was more powerful, I could have gotten through this rock and I could have already been home. So he's trying. He's going. He's like blasting through the mountain. He's trying. His symbol is getting not super strong. That's carved onto his cheek. And Terran's there. And Terran's like, please, Maro, stop, please. And he's grabbing onto Maro, trying to keep him not to use his magic. And Maro throws him off. And then Maro passes out, and Terran tells everyone. And because he wants his brother to be safe.
He doesn't want him to die.
The doctor comes. He's literally watching his brother die, and he doesn't want him to die. And Maro is so angry because like the doctor's like, nope, he cannot use any more magic for years. And the general who Maro really likes, who has been there with him, is like, Crown Prince, we got to protect you, buddy. We're sending you home. And once his dad finds out, they're like, send him back. And
people who actually cared about Maro found out and kind of overwrote his personal eunuch. It is his personal eunuch, right? Yeah, his advisor.
Yeah. His tutor? Mm-hmm. Personal? Yeah. Ganji. And he's so upset. And the thing is, like, the general and a lot of these people genuinely care for him, and they're not saying, you know, like they're in their head, they're not like, oh, we're doing this because you're worthless, but he takes it that way, and he beats the shit out of Terran.
Because he figures out that Terran told everyone.
Terran is sobbing. And he's like, you did this. And he's like, he just says ugly things to Terran. And Terran is on the ground crying, saying, I'm sorry 10 times. I'm sorry 1,000 times.
Because Maro always forces him to say sorry 3 times before he'll forgive him.
3 times. And normally when Terran is able to display that he genuinely loves Maro would calm down previously when he was angry with him, but not this time. And
this time he just gets more angry. The more Terran loves him, the more he despises him and hates him. And
the more he cries, and he's like, you're weak. You're disgusting.
He totally externalizes his internal emotions and fears. And he's like, fuck it. It's like, you're pathetic, crying there on the floor, and you're the one everyone talks about. You're the prodigal son, not me, and I'm so fucking mad at you.
And the other thing that I forgot to mention is prior to this point, Terran gets his magic sigil fills in, and it's the Tao symbol, which is for like war, fighting, swords, that kind of stuff. And everybody's like, wow,
Everyone's
suddenly
like, this
all
is
the
just
people
what
in
we need.
the little
Our nation is saved. Terran's gonna save the nation. It's the best
and
thing ever.
And all these people who previously were like, fuck Terran,
Yeah,
he's
and
a
everyone's
weak-ass
like, it's
bitch,
so much better than
are
Maro's
suddenly
gift.
yeah, like roads are nice, but winning wars is way better. And tomorrow's already that's leading into this moment. So that happens, and then all of the stuff happens where Morrow passes out and Terran tells. So like he's already pissed off at Morrow, like at Terran, because Terran's even like, oh, I'm so happy I got my power. Now we can go on conquest together. You can do your roads, and then I can do other stuff, and we can go together forever, and we can always
when I
be
get
together.
sent to
Because
war,
now I
you
have
can
magic,
come
and I can
with,
help
and you
you, and
can
I
make
can
roads for the soldiers. That'll be perfect. We'll be together forever.
soldiers. And Morrow's just seething inside, and then the whole thing happens where he passes out and people are like, yo, he's gonna die, and then Terran tells everyone and he beats the shit out of Terran. And the crazy thing is, in this moment, Terran has the power to fuck up his brother. He literally he controls weapons, and he can make swords appear out of fucking nothing. He could have, in this moment, even just one sword to knock Morrow back, he could have gotten this kid off of him. But he is so sad and so incapable of hurting Morrow that he lets himself get beat the shit out of.
Yeah, because
in
so Terran, it's like,
sad.
you don't
It's so
hurt
shitty.
the people you love. That is still alive in him at this time.
And it's just, and so then like Morrow goes off. He goes into like a Shaolin temple. It's not called a Shaolin in this, but that's kind of how it is. And he starts like, he goes off to do stuff. And really quick, I'm going to pause here before we get too much further and tell you some of the stuff that has been happening as these stories are getting told to us. What's happening with Wei? What is happening with Wei, Elin? There's things happening.
She's writing her poem.
She's writing her poem. She gets accused of on their wedding day, so she has to marry Terran. And they have the wedding day. She's like terrified. She talks about like what a wedding could have been like if she wasn't marrying this asshole. Was this before or after Hessen? Does she marry Terran after?
No, before. Yeah, she marries him before.
I think it's before. It's before.
And then they go to their retreat together as newlyweds.
Yeah. But during the wedding, like as people, it's basically this point where everybody's like, these certain people have to come and represent like the emperor, and the empress comes and they have to do blessings on the marriage at this one point. And the empress is like, actually, no, this wedding can't happen. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And she's like, I have a servant here. And they bring up this random servant girl, and they're like, she saw Wei go to the West Pavilion, which is Morrow's pavilion, in a nightgown in the middle of the night, which is basically
she
like,
be unfaithful, the whore.
With Morrow. And Terran's like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, and the Empress is like, oh, are you gonna be a bitch again? Because she already has expressed anger that instead of showing mercy to her niece, she cut the tongue out, kind of thing. And so she knows this is going to hurt Wei, because either Wei has to say that girl's lying, in which case that girl dies and her whole family dies, or she admits to it to not kill that girl and then she gets killed, kind of thing. It's a shitty situation, and she gets put on the spot, and she decides to go for like option, like, so there's A option, B option, and she decides to go for C, which is, she says, yes, I did do that, but actually it wasn't to sleep with someone else. Coming up to my wedding, I wanted to do, me and Terran have been sleeping with each other for a while, and in honor of our wedding, I wanted an extra special married night. So I went to Lady Song to get some
tips.
lessons in other
Techniques.
extramarital techniques. And so she's putting, and her and Lady Song are working together at this point. So she's like, come on, Cillian, help a girl out. And Cillian's like, yep, it's true. And they're like, but you already learned all the concubine stuff. And Cillian's like, well, actually, I come from a different province.
We
and
in the
got
north,
things
we
you
do
guys don't
things
know
you
about.
could not even conceive of.
Steve. We're real crazy up there. And so then the Empress is like, oh, okay. And everybody's like, okay. So the wedding continues on. And then they have they have to go away for like a week or 2 weeks to a Shaolin temple up in the mountains. And they basically, they put them in a temple with nothing to do in like a wooden building.
Yeah, and at this
like,
point, Hessen is like, not Hessen, Taryn is like, you're not entirely stupid, Way. I mean, you're ugly, but you're not entirely stupid. I loathe you, but I kind of also see what you're doing. You might not be entirely useless. So he's softening just a little bit. And he's also maybe thinking that, okay,
yeah,
so maybe she is working for me in her self-interest, sort of.
Yeah, because he says, okay, what the fuck happened? Tell me. Because that night she's like, he might kill me tonight. And he was like, she's like, don't you want to know what I did while I was in the West Palace? Don't you want to know what I'm doing? And she kind of uses it to get time. The other thing to note is St. Jen makes the point, it's crazy how she really was like, nah, my homegirl was just teaching me how to bounce on it crazy style. And the whole court besides Hessen is like, all right. And that really is because Hessen is starting to get, he realizes shit's up, and he's beginning to mistrust, because prior to this he trusts her.
He thinks she's simple.
She's just, you know, poor village girl. Yeah, and he's beginning to see she's not, and so he's beginning to get a little untrustworthy of her. But she basically tells Taryn, I went to Lady Song because I am pretending to spy on you, but I'm actually spying on Morrow. And he's like, why are you doing that? And she's like, listen, we just got married. I've always been told that marriage, you're supposed to take care of each other. She's like, I want to take care of you. I want to be your wife. I want to be your partner. And he's like,
fuck off.
The fuck? Mm-hmm. What's this? Fuck off.
She's like, but you don't understand.
I don't like
marriage
this.
Marriage is different in the village.
Yeah. And he stabs her. He gets drunk.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think you're afraid enough of me.
And she, yeah, literally. But he's getting drunk at this point. He's really drunk. So he passes out and she's just stabbed. And she's like, oh shit. And she could have used magic, the literomancy, to heal her wound. But she's like, if I do that, he's going to know that I am literate, and that will be a huge issue. So I can't do that. I have to just, and so she's like, I just have to lay here until the morning. And because when everybody comes in to take them away to their 2 weeks in the Shaolin temple, she's like, I need him to wake up in the morning and then heal me, and then we'll deal with this.
A big
and
fucking
when
mess
he wakes
for
up and he looks at her,
if he killed me. So but he's also shit drunk. Like, this woman, in the face of like bleeding out on a bed, maybe, has the bodily control of a well-trained German shepherd who poops on command. Because she's like, I'm gonna logic all of this out while I'm bleeding and slowly losing consciousness when I could just panic and heal myself. But no, I'm gonna trust that my fucked up husband, who is so drunk he passed out and knifed me, didn't mean to kill me enough that I will just about not die until tomorrow morning if I just lie here and bleed.
Yes. And so he wakes up and he's like, oh shit. He immediately is like, fuck. Cause like, killing your empress on your wedding night, everybody would
it would be big
the
problem.
Entire nation would be against him. It would, yes, it's such a faux pas against a foundational cultural touchstone that it would be huge. And he's like, oh fuck. He's like, Way, you're dying. What do I do? And she's like, just heal me, cover me up, so they can't see the blood, and just be like, tell them to carry me. That tell them, she goes, put the wine bottle next to
He's
my
such
bed
a
and tell
little
them I've
kid when he
passed out.
wakes up. He's like, wait, and he's mad at her because she's causing him trouble, but at the same time, he doesn't know what to do because he's a big
Yeah.
baby. So, well, almost unconscious, she's like, this is how you manage this situation. On the topic of women being like the project managers in their personal relations.
Yes, it really feels like, wife is really, really sick and husband is like, I don't know how to cook, and she has to like talk him through the whole step. But
It's like, get
he
me a
solves the
beer.
problem
I'm
because he
too
heals her,
weak
but
to
she's
stand.
still
Get me a beer. Say that I drank too much last night. There's a wine bottle by your bed. Lay it next to me and tell them that I just chugged the whole thing and now I'm so hungover I cannot stand. They will have to carry me to our retreat and we'll fix this.
And then she passes out, and then she wakes up in the retreat, and she's like, I guess that worked. And he's like, yo, what the fuck is up with you? And she's like, I'm here to help you, bro. Like, I said what I said earlier. And while they're there, he mainly just keeps to himself, and like he keeps going. There's a koi pond up in the mountain, and he just sits there with the koi and like is hanging out a lot. And she'll like go and kind of like sit near him, and they have like little like chats about stuff. But then there's a blizzard coming, and
He's asleep when it's
she's like,
announced by the monks.
okay. And yeah, and so when he wakes up, the blizzard is already happening, and he freaks out and he runs out into the snow, and she's like, Jesus Christ. And she goes after him, and he is in at the lake where the koi are, and he's like trying to dig in to get them. And she's like, it's okay, I already asked the monks to put them inside. And he's like, what? And they go up to the temple, and the monks took all, and the monks are like, are you guys dumb? Like, the fish live out there, the top freezes, they're fine. But she knew, because at this point she's read the whole story, and she knows what happened with the carp in the lake, when Hassan was like, and he killed all those carp. When he was a boy, he saved the one fish, but now he killed them all. But she knows the truth. We don't yet, as the reader, know.
But this is also the beginning of her emotional manipulation chapters or arc, where she becomes an emotional manipulator and betrayer, and yet we're supposed to not empathize with the person who we see get tortured pretty much. It's so weird because he's not supposed to be the tortured one, and yet the middle and latter half of the book are pretty much entirely about how he was tortured. And then we see Wei starting to emotionally manipulate to get into his good graces, with the pretense of learning to love him. But it's also very much by manipulating him into dropping his guard. It feels, I'm conflicted. I'm really conflicted about it.
Yeah, it's messy. And I wish the book realized how messy it was. That she is doing,
she is becoming what she hates these people for being.
In how they like manipulate and use him, and because she is in this moment fundamentally doing that. But he is so thankful in that the fish are safe and inside, that he's like, yo, Wei. And he begins to not fully trust her, but he begins to not torture her as much anymore. And like his heart's not in it. And they go back to the town, like the palace. And there's even a point where she's in his room with him, and he sees a snail, and he's like, Wei, quick, get my paper and some ink. I need to write a poem about this guy. And she's like beginning to see these other like small glimpses of him. And there's this other point where she keeps getting letters from different people being like, yo, our town is starving, our like this stuff is happening, please help us, Rice Wife. And she starts making tiny little changes on his edicts and things to benefit people. So instead of saying like tax relief for 1 year, she does tax relief for 3 years, ways where she doesn't have to write a whole word, but she can manipulate a stroke or two to change the meaning to benefit other people. and she starts using his, because like he'll just leave stuff around and she can go do that, and she starts having um that like these moments of manipulating stuff. But all this time Hessen is like, what the fuck is up with this bitch? Like, what is happening? Oh, I also have to say, when they no, this isn't where it happens. So eventually one day she's writing her heart spirit poem, and it glows, and she's like, Ren, oh my god, my heart spirit poem, it's getting close, because once it starts glowing, magic is imbued in it. And then a voice goes, oh, is it, Lady Yin? And it's Hessen, and Hessen is like, yo, you can fucking read, and you're working, that's a heart spirit poem if I've ever seen one. You're working against him. And Hessen is like, listen, we're gonna kill you, thanks for your service. And I knew something was fucking up, and she's like, this can't happen. So she uses literomancy to knock him out, and she immediately goes to Lady Cillian, and she also, I think she like cuts his hand off or something. No,
they
doesn't do that.
incapacitate him.
He does it.
She burns her heart spirit poem because she knows it in her brain. Yeah, so she doesn't need it, but she also needs to do a double trouble thing. So she goes to Lady Cillian.
Yeah, Lady Cillian, and she gets the copy of Morrow's heart spirit poem, and she hides a piece of it in her room. And then she goes to, because she knows the only way out of this is to convince Terran that Hessen has betrayed him, and like do the thing first so that it looks like Hessen is the problem. And she's like, yo, babes, Hessen is betraying us. He is doing this whole weird plot to say that I can read and I can do all of this stuff. He's even changed some edicts of yours to make it look like I'm manipulating it, and this whole thing, and it's really weird. And she's like, also, I saw him talking with Morrow, and they were saying some stuff, and I don't really know what it means, but, you know, like, I came to tell you. And he's like, no way. Absolutely not. Hessen would not do that. Hessen has been loyal to me for like 20 years. And she's like, listen, I'm just telling you what's happened. And then Hessen comes in, and he's like, Your Majesty, thank God you're here. This bitch can read, and she's writing a heart spirit poem, and I have evidence of it. And he's like, oh yeah, Hessen? And then he goes and he reads it, and he's like, Hessen, you think I wouldn't know my brother's own handwriting?
And
then
his
Hessen
style of poetry, because I've read thousands of his poems over the years.
And we played dueling couplets. You think I wouldn't recognize this? And then he's like, oh shit. And so he literally takes Hessen's hand and his arm and like gets him like thrown away. And he's like, yo,
I wonder really upset, if it was the arm with the seal on it.
It is the arm with the seal. I'm pretty sure it's the arm with the seal. He's really pissed, but he's like, Way, you did a solid. You helped me figure out there was a traitor in our midst. It's me and you, girl. But also, he then kills her entire pavilion of staff.
Because he was mad.
Every single one.
Big mad.
Yeah, because he's like, he was super mad, but then he also, the only person he didn't kill was the lady who had her tongue cut out, whose name was Who. Because he's like, she couldn't be a spy, but everyone else, if Hessen was a spy, and it's kind of his, like, it is a physical manifestation of all of his worries, where if Hessen could have betrayed him,
paranoia,
no one can be trusted.
In his case, very much, like, is it paranoia if your fears are true? Like, it's paranoia is an irrational fear. But when the fear is kind of rational, what is it then? Like, it is a terrible thing he does, but also by doing this way, kind of served up his fears on a platter. I know she doesn't have any choice, because it was her or Hessen at that point. But also, she kind of, in her mind, thinks of it as an entirely monstrous thing done by Terran. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do want to highlight a comment St. Jen makes, because Labis 64 says, "Isn't
Oh,
that
yeah.
explicitly mentioned? How she hates what she's has become." Saint Jen says, "It is, but I do agree it could have been done better. I feel like Wei tells us how she doesn't like gaining power and influence, but the narrative makes it seem like she's the true compass of good, and that is
Can
like
I
is something that happens. So she does this, and honestly,
about the whole, isn't it explicitly mentioned? Yes, Wei does mention it, but do you know what we say? Like, it feels so emotionally inauthentic, because do you know what it is when someone's like,
yes,
"Oh, I hate who I am," and then I go and do a genocide? Like, that is somehow even more disgusting than someone doing a genocide because they're like, "This is the right thing to do. I believe in this. We're calling him."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and it because it reads a little disingenuously. And in this moment, it was really hard. Like as a reader, because I
Mm.
like Hessen as a character who
Yeah, it
thinks
was
he's
very
doing the right
undeserved.
thing, who
Like,
is
it
like,
was,
yeah, I've got this,
you felt bad for him.
yeah, and he's got this, yeah, and he's got this shitty prince, but he has been a tempering agent to Terran for years. For years, he's been trying in any way he could to temper, and we can't go too crazy because we've got to keep our alliances and we need these other people and this whole thing. And to just like and the thing is, like, you were trying to kill the prince, kind of thing. It's and honestly, this happening and then her making a decision she makes later makes me so angry, because like, poor Hessen, it didn't even have to go down like this. But in this moment it did, because she does want to kill him, and it was her. And also, she doesn't just see it as her dying or Hessen, but she was like the fate of the entire nation. But or Hessen, and that's kind of how she phrases it, which makes, when she changes her mind about something later, it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, so this happens. Hessen kills everyone, and she's like, "Oh, I have to kill this asshole. Like, fuck this guy. This guy's gonna fucking die." And I think it's at this point. It might not be here, but we get the. I think we got it beforehand, but we get the final story about Morrow and his brother, which is after a couple of years of him being in a Shaolin temple, not using his power and training. One of his best friends from childhood comes to him and is like, "Yo, buddy, we need you to come back to the palace." And he's like, "I'm not supposed to leave until I'm fully healed, like da da da." And he's like, "No, no, no, your brother's a genocidal tyrant, and we need, well, not
He,
genocidal, but
yeah, he
he's
says
a
something
sociopathic
along the
tyrant,
time,
and we need
along
you."
the wells of, but what's his brother's name? I just completely no,
Morrow,
the Taryn. Oh my god,
Karen.
we've gone a long time. Sorry, Taryn is such a gentle person. Like, you'll be fine, and everyone's like, "No, he's a homicidal maniac. You have to come back now." And he's like, "Say no more. I'm there."
Yeah, and he's like, "Okay, let's go," because and part of him just can't believe that Taryn is turned into. And he gets there, and it is like dead birds, all this stuff. Like, Taryn is gone, and not just like, he's not just being weird, because he goes to Taryn immediately. Like, Taryn's not speaking. Like, his advisors speak for him, but Taryn doesn't say a word. And everybody's like, "Thank God you're back. We gotta deal with this." And he's like, "No, no, no, I'm gonna try talk to my brother," and stuff like that. And they were like, "No, we've discovered he is working on this seal of invincibility to make it that you can't die unless it's of old age. And he's gonna use it, and then he will be unkillable. So you have to kill him now." And he's like, "Oh man, fucking wild. This is crazy." And there's literally a scene earlier to this where he watches Taryn kill a bunch of
Yeah, the first
birds.
time they meet, and
And
I have to say that with someone who might have a touch of the tism, I totally understand the experience from Taryn's point of view of being so emotionally hurt and distraught, because we know what happened to him during these years, like all the war and
yes.
the essay and all of that. Like, I can understand the experience of being so in extremity that you're kind of locked in your body, that you can't speak. And if someone rattles you too much, you might act out in a way that is very unbecoming.
Yeah. And I think it reads really purposeful and well done. Like I buy this a lot. It kind of for me screamed something has traumatized him, like something has happened, because that's what he's Maro's like, what happened, like what happened while you were in
Yeah, it like
Tiesa
screams
on
pain
your
and
thing, and
rage,
he doesn't
and it is despicable that he turns it on poor birds. I hate how many animals had to
and
give their
servants who
lives
are
in
innocent.
service of this book. But
Yes,
yeah, but it's not
there's so many.
entirely something you can't understand.
Exactly. And so I think she does a good job of still making Taryn terrible,
Mm,
but also that
mm.
thread of sympathy. Um, and so Morrow's people are like, we have to kill him before he makes the seal. And not only is this like a super powerful thing, but it is a very hard spell to write. It is so hard. Taryn has been working on it for 7 years, working on this, and he's close to having it completed. So Morrow, they're like, okay, we're gonna do this. We'll poison him, and there's a specific type of poison that doesn't read as poison, and it also makes it looks like you just die of a sickness, and it's really mild, but it's super lethal. So they're like, we'll just poison him, and he was like, you got to get him on his own, and he's like, I think I can do that, and he basically sends Taryn a letter saying, hey, let's play dueling couplets. Meet me in the Peach like pavilion, and the Peach Pavilion has like barely been taken care of. It's kind of uh falling apart, and they meet on a bridge, and Morrow's on one end and Taryn's on the other, and Morrow kind of walks to the middle, and he's trying to get Taryn to come up, and he's trying to get Taryn to let his guard down because he has mung bean cakes that has been laced with this specific poison, and he's trying to get Tarot to get them, Taryn to eat it, and Taryn's not really saying anything, and he even eats one, but he has an antidote thing in his cheek, so he eats it and doesn't die. And he ends up talking to Taryn and confessing some of his guilt. Like he's like, they have kind of like a shitty conversation, and then he's like, I wanted to say I'm sorry, like you've said sorry to me 1,000 times, 10,000 times. He's like, but I have never apologized to you, I'm sorry for, and he just lists all of the things, and as he speaks and confesses, he's like, I'm sorry I hit you, and there's not a day that I don't wish I could go back, and if I could do my life over, that would be the first thing I change. And he's getting emotional because it is tapping into
Yeah, and
something that
tied
happens,
into
and
it is
Taryn,
like, if I hadn't done that, if I just, you know, if I'd been better, maybe we could have gone together, as you said, and we could have protected each other. And
yeah.
that really breaks through to Taran because of what he experienced after that.
And he starts crying, Taryn, and he starts crying, and he says, Morrow, if you really love me, he's like, because Morrow's kind of like, I wish I could have, and he's like, make me less, make me a bird, make me a fish. I don't want this. I don't want, and and he says, make me little. I don't want everything around me. And what it is, because one of the last things Morrow says to Taryn when he's beating him up when they were younger, Taryn's like, I don't want to be emperor. You don't want to be emperor. And then Morrow's like, I do want to be emperor. Maybe you should want it too. And he's kind of like, you get the feeling that he's kind of been working off that, like everyone his whole life has told him to want this thing, and he finally starts working towards wanting to be trying to be emperor, and that's what has been happening along with some other stuff that at this point you don't yet know. But he breaks down in front of his brother, and he's like, just make me little, like make me a fish, something that doesn't need to have all of this other stuff. I don't want
Turn me
to
into
be
something beautiful, he
and
says.
it's almost like beautiful and small and happy there, and that's the vibe, and it is an affecting scene because he is just, you're like, something has happened to him, something has broken him, and the trappings of his life have destroyed him, and he just wants to be a happy little child again. And he's sobbing, and he goes to eat one of the cakes that Morrow made, and Morrow says, no, don't do it, and he knocks it over and knocks it into and he knocks the whole basket into the water. And one of the carps starts eating the mung bean cakes and starts dying. And Taryn is like, oh no, Morrow, they're dying. We have to save them. Morrow, please help me save them. And Morrow's like, oh God, what the fuck do I do? And then all of a sudden an arrow flies in and hits Taryn in his leg. And he realizes that despite the fact that he was supposed to be here alone with Taryn, that everybody else didn't believe he would actually be able to do it. So they had a bunch of archers and they just start pelting at Taryn. And Taryn is so concerned about these fish, he doesn't immediately acknowledge this. And then he does, and he starts like using his magic and starts attacking the people around him. And then people grab Morrow and are trying to drag him away. And he's kind of watching these people just attack his brother and trying to kill him. And Taryn fights back and just goes against them. And then he runs off and he hides. And Morrow is like, one of his favorite people dies. And Ganji's like, this is your fault. You did this. If you would have just killed him, this person, these multiple people wouldn't have died. You have, and he's like, I won't fail next time. I won't fail. And
it's so sad because this latter part of
it's so sad.
like this latter version of Tarn is so clearly someone who is hurting, who is sensitive, who is acting out, like someone who is emotionally stunted, a child, but redeemable in that all he needs is human connection. A person to person, not heir to heir or the emperor into waiting or something, anything like that. And I think this part is so emotionally affecting. Like just talking it through,
It
really like it hurts. Which is why I wish the early Cruel Terran could have been reined back just a little bit, so that they aren't two completely different people. Because sadism is such a hard line. Whereas someone who is emotionally tortured and hurting can do bad things. Like they can hurt people in order to not be hurt, or because they can't regulate their emotions, or because they're carrying so much hurt and rage, but not necessarily in the ways that we see him hurt Wei just because she exists, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree. I completely agree. I think if you change his violence to make it when he is upset, overstimulated, emotionally, or like a slight has been done to him, and that's when he does it.
Yeah, give him contextual feelings, not just I'm bored, I'm gonna torture.
Yes. I think that would work so much better in the context of how this story downplays. Like, don't keep him from doing terrible things. He still needs, for the story to work, he does, but it needs to be for specific reasons that trigger this.
Do you remember the marriage between Mariko and her husband in Shogun?
Her husband? Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, exactly. A little bit more of that, you know, and because it does undercut this, but also you're right, the scene is just so affecting. Even just talking through it, I was like, oh God, it's so that because at this point he's, I think, like 14 or something.
Just
crying
barely
out.
More than children,
babies,
and all the adults in these children's close circles were just using them. Everyone has been using them all their lives.
And it's just so exhausting. And again, speaking to Morrow being someone who doesn't fully understand how like love works, he sees his brother break down in this way that he in that moment he understands is so significant. He knocks the mung bean cake from his hand because he's like, something has happened. This is he is that child again. And there's this, and then afterwards when Terran kills people because they attacked him, he's like, oh fuck Terran. I'm
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
team from here on out because I don't want people I
Yeah,
love to
Morrow's
die.
also been ruined and
Let me tell you,
stunted by this. Like he probably was born with
yes.
a limited capacity for empathy, and then his life has just trained him not to empathize and to, because he has this weird sort of
Yes.
disconnect where he can't keep two thoughts in his head at the same time.
He cannot. Because like he exits this scene where it should be what the fuck happened to Terran, and I'm so upset that this happened this way and I could have handled this better.
Yeah, and
But
it's
just
such a huge
completely
tragedy when
loses the
people you
one.
love hurt each other. So you're hurting for all of them at the same time. But no, it's like the moment his swordmaster is killed, he's like, fuck Terran. It's all his fault.
Fuck Terran. But also he's like, it's my fault
Mm.
because I was too weak. He's so Morrow internalizes what
Yeah.
Ganji and those others tell him so much
Mm-hmm.
that he's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is my fault. If I would have been better, if I would have just killed Terran, none of this would have happened. And it connects to this ingraining by being raised the way he was, where his only value was to be crown prince. Anything that jeopardizes that makes him feel so worthless that it colors everything of how he acts and interacts with the world. Honestly, I would have loved to get more about Morrow and Cillian and like
Yeah.
their relationship, and like, does
Mm-hmm.
he genuinely love her? Like, because it's sold that he does, and because he doesn't want
She
other concubines and stuff like
seemingly
that.
genuinely
What is
loves
genuine
him.
love
What he feels is a little
him
more
as well?
obscure, simply because he is more like a bi
Obscure.
character in this
It
story.
is.
It would have been such an interesting book if it was just about these brothers and this dynasty and the horrible things it does.
I completely agree. And it was one of my thoughts where, especially because the other side was like, the stuff that happens with Wei is a little bit less, great, that had it just focused on these two. Because this is really the heart of the
Mm-hmm.
story. But yes, this terrible thing happens, and then everybody blames Terran because and Morrow's people tell everyone that Terran killed the fish, and everybody believes it. And you also discover here that because they learn, Hessen comes to Morrow and is like, hey, your brother killed this one guy and you need to do something about him. And so the scene that we got from Hessen's point of view earlier, we now get it from Morrow's point of view and how it works. And Morrow realizes that wasn't Terran. One of his advisors, and he confronts them, like one of his friends killed that eunuch and left him for Hessen to find, to turn Hessen against Terran, because Hessen still kind of liked Terran, like didn't love him, but was like still doing stuff. And so to turn Hessen against him, they did that. And they were like, we got to do what we got to do, babes.
Yeah, and Hessen kind of still
And then,
saw the
everybody.
child that Terran had been, because Hessen is one of the few characters who kind of has understood what the dynastic pressure does, like how the dynasty is what is rotting the dynasty.
Yep, exactly. And it's so fantastic of it, but how they turned Hessen against him further, because it was one of Hessen's best friends that so they literally killed a guy, chopped him up into 20 pieces, and were like, wow, Terran sucks. Like, and it's just Morrow not even realizing that, like, we are as bad, not as bad, but like we are playing in the sandbox as well.
It's on the same playing field,
and it's just exactly. And that a lot of Terran's stuff is coming from like the emotional trauma of it all, and yours is coming from like calculated moves and stuff like that. So then we go back to stuff that's happening with Wei and Terran, and I think there's a point where she says to him, like, I think it's a little bit earlier. I think this actually might have happened before they got married, but where she says to him, like, you didn't kill your mother, did you? And he like shuts down and freaks the fuck out. and I'm bringing this up because it's going to be important later, but she gets sent on a pilgrimage to go after Hessen is taken away. He's like, yo, I need to reward you. You've done a lot of good. What do you want? And she's like, I don't want anything. And he's like, oh, your brother. You wanted me to pay for your brother to go to school and send stuff. I'll send you on a caravan. You could go home, bring all of these
It's
gifts,
so
have a great
interesting.
time.
In
We'll
this
see you in a month.
scene, she's like, fuck Taryn. He's such an evil fucking bastard. And the sentence after, he demonstrates that even when she was nothing to him, he thought she was a stupid rice farmer. He listened to every word she said and he remembered it.
Yes, that she wanted food to go back to her people, and her brother vowed to go to school. So she gets sent off to go take all this stuff, and she's like, okay, this is perfect. I'm getting out of the palace. I need to go to Tieza to get the figure out what happened to Taryn there. Something that there's a kernel
It's
of
a
chaos
missing
that
piece in
happened
my
over there.
poem.
So she sends
To kill him.
Yes. So to kill him. So she sends him off elsewhere, or she sends her like eunuch or something her head maid to go to her village and give all this stuff. And she goes with Siyi off to Tieza. And basically she discovers, she has a conversation with the Empress and she learns about his mom previously, where his mom was like really nice to all the other ladies. And she was actually like a really chill woman. But like after childbirth, she changed in a lot of ways, where she realized that all of her suffering was only worth it if her son became emperor. So it really changed her. And she also discovers that Lady Autumn, Taryn's mom, was from a place in
The
Tieza
Heron
called
Tower.
like
Blue Heron Tower.
the Crane. Yeah, the Heron Tower house. And so she goes to Tieza and she finds it, and it's a pleasure house with prostitutes. And she goes in and she talks to the madam there, and everyone's like, "Get fucked! Why are you here?" And she's like, "I am the empress to," or at this point she is the empress. Or the empress to be. She's married. She's like, "I," and they're like, "Oh shit, okay." And she's like, "I want you to tell me when Taryn came here, what was the thing?" And I'm gonna cut this short for you guys. Basically, she discovered that Taryn's mom used to be a pleasure girl for like the northern evil people. She'd run off to become a concubine, and then she came back years later during Taryn's mission to Tieza to push back the invaders, and she brings Taryn to this pleasure house, and she's basically like with the late. She goes to the lady who's running it, and she's like, "We need him to make babies," and he is like young. He's so if he was like 17 with that scene with
by my count,
because this happens right after. Yeah, he's 11. He's like he's
awful.
young. He's so young, and they're like, we need to. So they basically create a special room.
Yeah, where they can
force
inspire him and stoke his fire.
His flame, yes. And there's even. She sees a thing that matches the prongs, like matches the burn marks on him and the scars. And his mother would be in the room while this was happening. And if he wouldn't cooperate, she would torture him until he cooperated. And so basically this guy was like sexually waterboarded for years while off with his mom. And it is one of the things that just broke him, and so much clicks into place for her about him and the reactions and stuff that happened to him. So she goes back to the palace, and immediately they're like,
in the room,
you have to,
the
you're on
fireplace,
trial.
She finds the burnt remains of his toys. Oh, and then she goes and sees the ghost.
Oh yeah,
the ghost boy.
Yes. Oh my god, this is so sad. So she finds the burnt remains of Nunu, which was the fossilized shell. Obviously, the tiger burnt away and the feather burnt away, but she finds Nunu. And she goes to this like field as she's processing all of this, and she sees a ghost Terran, and she follows him to this field, and he's playing, and he's just a sad child. And she takes New and she like gives it to him, and he can't see it, and he can't really see her either. So she shatters it, she breaks it into pieces, and then the ghost in the pieces of the ghost of the snail, appears, and baby ghost Terran is so happy to be
Yeah.
reunited with his friend and this peace.
Yeah, and the
And it's so
imagery of
sad.
it too. She shatters the snail and it becomes a ghost. In other words, Taran, the child, is shattered and became a ghost.
And it's just like that loss of innocence, that loss of happiness, and that loss of self, like how broken he is after this, that this is left behind. And she recognizes him immediately. You know, she's never seen young Taryn, you know, photos don't exist. And she realizes it, and
Yeah.
she's so
And
sad in
the
that
awful
moment.
thing is that they sit next to each other and she takes up the poem. She's like, just ignore me, do your thing. I just want to sit and watch you. Be close. And the sad thing is that the child, the ghost, he comes up and he looks at the poem, and then he writes some characters in the ground, in the dirt, and he writes a verse for his own heart spirit poem.
And it is more beautiful than anything she could have written. And he's like, is this for me? And there's this sadness that, because it's beautiful, the poem is gorgeous, this thing she has written is beautiful, and baby Taryn is like, wow, this beautiful thing for me. And it's just, let me tell you, this author writes, there's certain scenes that just straight to the heart, and you're just like, yo, that's fucked up, that's insane.
And this sense that this ghost of a boy would not really want to live as what he has become either. Like the sort of sense of
like
how the present you would not recognize the past you because of things that happen. In bits, the author is so damn good and so damn deliberate.
Yes, and the emotional scenes deliver. Like you're just shattered by this terrible, beautiful scene, and it's well written, and it hits. And so she has to go back, and immediately she's on trial, and she doesn't know what she's on trial for, and they say it's for a crime against the crown, and that they show her 3 spells which she's not supposed to know how to read, and basically if she picks the right one, then she is innocent, but if she picks the wrong one, then she's guilty. But she realizes, oh, this is a reading test, because they put in front of her 3 literomancy spells, 2 of which would hurt her, and 1 which wouldn't hurt
and they
her
say
and have no
that
and she realizes,
if she is innocent, the spell won't hurt you. But she's like, but if this is actually a reading test, they expect me to pick the one that doesn't hurt me.
And that's how they find out I can read. And so she realizes this is happening, and she starts fake random picking things so it looks like she can't read. So she'll pick the wrong thing, and then she'll pick the right thing one time, and they just keep doing this over and over. And every time that she picks one of the bad ones, it hurts her physically, to the point where like she's passing out, and then she'll wake up and they make her do it again, and they're doing it over and over. And eventually Taryn steps in, and he's like, fuck all of y'all, we're not doing this, she's my wife, fuck you, this is fine. And other people are like, no, this is from the crown, we have to do this. And he's like, my father's fucking passed
and it's so stupid, because
bed.
If the order came from the emperor, and he's been insensate for months at this point, it's like, it didn't. Fuck you guys.
No, it didn't. And Taryn calls him out on that. He's like, my father's a
Vegetable.
slobbering, like,
No.
potato. What are you... Vegetable, what are you talking... And they were like...
I don't know. They use some East Asian analog.
Yeah. And it's and everybody's like, oh my god, that's a crime against the crown. That's treason. How dare you say that? And he's like, okay, that's treason. He's like, my father is basically not functioning. I'm crown prince. I am technically... And they were like, oh my god, that's also treason. You need to be punished. And he goes, okay, are you gonna punish me? Go ahead, punish me. And the swords all over the ceiling start tinkling. And the guy's like, and basically he says to anyone, go ahead, punish me. And then he turns around when nobody does and he goes, if I cannot be tried for a crime, then I am not guilty of it. If nobody can enforce it, and he goes, I am emperor, I say this is over, get fucked. And everybody's like, oh shit, Taryn, like, that's fucking wild. Why would you, like... And immediately things are... And she's like, buddy, why did you do that? And he was like, that was insane. And he's like, also, I knew you didn't know how to read. If you know how to read and you could do literomancy, you would have healed yourself up on our wedding night and not just waited there for me to, like, wake up. So obviously you can't read. And he's like... And also he's like, I'm the only one that gets to hurt you. And she was like, that's terrifying. And in, like, a romantasy book, this would have been such a heartfelt moment. And she's just like, oh, fuck. And she's working on her poem, and she gets it to the point where it's almost done. Or I think they have a conversation. Earlier, there was a scene with Song Cillian where she was like, you need to get him to speak. To make the Heart Spirit poem work, you need to get him to speak frankly and honestly to you, in which case you must use the concubine's
manipulation,
weapon, which is...
and using love as a weapon, like, get them to love you and destroy them.
Yes. And she has been working her way to that, and she finally gets to the point where she gets him to see, like, they begin to trust each other, and I forgot what triggered it, but he basically confesses what happened to him. Oh, after the whole thing, he's like, oh, you need to tell me why you were in Tieza. And she's like, oh shit, he knows. Because he's like, I also spared your life because I didn't want them to kill you. And we're all good. We can work together. We'll be best. We can rule together. You by my side. We'll be a team. He's like, but first you got to tell me why you were in Tieza. And she's like, oh, fuck. So she's honest. And she's like, I went because I love... She's not completely honest. She's not honest. She's not like, I was writing a Heart Spirit poem.
I went to figure out what happened to you. I went to the tower.
What happened to you? And he's like, oh shit. And he's like, so now you know my shame, how I couldn't serve my country. My failure. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, your mom was a bitch. And he's like, no, I couldn't do it. I need to protect the country, and I needed to make babies, and I couldn't do it. And he starts, like, having a full-on panic attack. And she's like, no, you were a child. That shouldn't have happened. And he freaks out and he runs off and he makes a hut for himself out of swords. And she has to, like, sword by sword get inside, and she goes in there with him. And she's like, that shouldn't have happened to you. That was wrong. Like, you deserve to be safe. And in that moment, she believes it. And she's speaking to child him because he's reacting like child him. And she's like, you deserve to be safe as a child. That was... Everyone failed you. And he's sobbing. And he tells her the last piece of the story we need to know, which is, in a very quick version, when he was writing the seal for invincibility and not being able to die until old age, he wasn't writing it for himself. He was writing it for Morrow, so that Morrow could use his magic and not die. And so the entire time he was in Tieza being assaulted, the entire time he was doing all these horrible things to people and animals, he was still just working doggedly to make something that would save his brother's life. And his mother hates that. And so this picks up after Hassan goes to Lady Autumn and is like, you need to speak to your son. And she's like, okay, I'll go talk to him. And it's right after, like, he has been hiding for days. It's right after the carp scene where he got hit by that arrow because he can't heal himself. And he's been hiding in a bush. And his mom comes and goes, I know all your hiding places. You can't hide from me. She's like, see, you've been writing that stupid poem, that spell for him for 7 years, and he attacked you. And she basically talks down to this kid in a terrible way. And she's like, but don't worry, you can fix everything and you can protect yourself and protect everyone and get everything. You just need to get good, like, and get better at being this whole prince thing. And she's like, she opens a box that she's brought with her that has water, and it has one of the beautiful carp in it. And she says, cut this carp. And because she knows he didn't kill all those fishes. He loves them fucking fishes. And he's like sad because his brother just tried to kill him. He killed a bunch of people. His leg hurts. He's been hiding in a bush for days at this point. Somebody framed him for a murder he didn't commit.
Like, for this crown.
And his mom's like, kill this crown, fish.
For this empire you don't want. Kill this part of yourself. Kill yourself. Just cut it open.
Just one cut, and I will make everything better for you, and everything will be better. And he doesn't kill the carp, and he kills his mother instead. And it just kind of finalizes. And for her, she's like, oh shit. That it was for Morrow, like this whole, and she sees, and again he's crying, and she's like, you deserve to be safe, don't worry, I got you. And then she finishes the Heart Spirit poem, and she takes it to Lady Cillian, and she's like, I did it, look. And Cillian's like, oh shit, okay, we gotta tell Morrow. At
this point with this scene, I was like, okay, so that's it. You can if you just steer him, like he has just been trying to protect himself, and he has some serious trauma to work through. But now that you have like a way in, you can start this, and you can shape this into a better place that you've been talking about all along. And yeah,
you now are the only trusted person by the most powerful man in the land.
By using his power to keep the nation safe. Like, the other prince he can use his powers to grow the crops and plant trees. And if you have Terran's ear, you can send aid to the regions that need it instead of just giving everything to the capital and the inner regions, the rich regions. You can stop rich merchants and nobility from hoarding wealth and resources. Like, you can do all of this when you have the ear of the most powerful prince who cannot die,
who has now stopped hurting you.
Author, you have just completely emotionally manipulated me into caring about and wanting to protect.
Yes.
For everyone who failed him already, for the entire fucking world. Like, this story is doing so good in establishing what a terrible, terrible weight this crown is, and how the entire thematic arc is how a terrible, horrible court full of self-interested vipers have taken the one sensitive, empathic child and completely, again and again and again, done violence unto it and tried to use this child and ruin it for their own gains. And the final moment that the child can't take no more and tries to cut away from all of you and starts doing violence back, it's like, okay, Tyrant, get rid of them. Like, they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it covertly. Like, there's been so many stories of how the former now Empress just killed all her rivals, and that's how she rose to Empress.
Yeah, it's really shitty. But so when she goes tomorrow and Cillian and she's like, the Heart Spirit poem is done. You're like, were you not in that cave of swords with that like broken man? Because I was. But she shows it to them, and Morrow's like, "Oh shit, this is it. This'll do it. Okay, we're good." And it's a celebration night, and that's why she was able to get over. There, it's this big celebration, and Morrow sees the poem, and he's like, "Oh, straight. Okay, good. I have to go right now." And Cillian's like, "You're leaving so soon? Like I thought we would talk, da da da." And he's like, "No, no, no. I have to go fulfill my filial duties." And as he's leaving, she's like, God, Morrow's kind of shitty. Like, and and there's this moment where she's like, I know Morrow so well at this point. I've read his journals. I've heard all of these stories. I feel as if I know him. And he's just
she's
having
done
basically
all this.
no
She's
reaction.
been working for him this entire time. And he's like, yeah, but.
Yeah. And she says to him, Morrow, the seal, the invincibility seal, it was for you. He did it for you. That's why. And he turns around and he goes, well, then he hasn't learned anything. And leaves. And you're like, fuck Morrow. I hope that motherfucker dies.
On a meta narrative level, that's like, okay, so he's ruined. Like this dynasty has turned him into its mirror image, and there's no going back. And he would keep reenacting these things and transferring these traumas and these pressures onto the next generation, like irreparably. Like nothing would change.
And it's just real shitty. And then she's like walking back home after this, and then the dragon goes crazy. And they realize, oh shit, the Emperor's dead. Like the because when the dragon starts freaking the fuck out and isn't just like docilely, above the city and above the palace, everyone's like, oh shit, the Emperor's dead. And
wasn't
she thinks
that awfully convenient?
Convenient. She was like, Hessen was like, it'll probably be years
and
before
yet
the Emperor actually
I go
dies.
to them and tell them that my Heart Spirit poem is ready and glowing, they're like,
and she's like, oh, Morrow has been waiting for this opportunity and just killed his dad. Like Morrow just fucking killed his father so he can get this show on the road. And then she also has a conversation with the Empress, and the Empress is like, they're having this thing, and she's like, well, you did it. You played one hell of a game. And then she's like, you're the one who said I couldn't read, or I could read. And she's like, no, I wasn't. And she goes, oh, wow, you're still kind of dumb, aren't you? Like, who else? Like, you have to think about who would benefit from seeing that. And then she realizes, oh, I spent months getting closer to Terran, and people saw me getting closer to Terran. She's like, Cillian's the only person who actually knew I knew how to read. Cillian must have thought I got too close to Terran, and so she wanted to stop me. And so she's the one who told everyone I knew how to read. And this pisses our girl off. She's like, fuck Cillian. And I'm like, okay, but like if I was Cillian, I also probably would have been like, what the fuck? Like, you gotta keep in contact
the mic
with each
drop
other.
moment that you think it was. Like at this, even before she went to Mara and was like, it's finished, I was like, there's no way you're gonna use that. Stop lying. You're better than this, I was thinking.
So she's like, yeah, so and she's like, I guess Cillian was also just a power-hungry whore. And like now she looks at Morrow and Cillian and she's like, are they really the best for the country? So we get to the day of the coronation. And a big thing that I haven't mentioned so far is Terran is going to be the first prince in like a bajillion years to face the crown by himself with no one else. It used to be that this would happen, but a lot of princes would die, and they were like, the princes are too big of a commodity.
It's a heckin' bummer every time an entire royal house gets wiped out with all its heirs. So takes such a long time to grow a new one.
So they were like, yes. And so they were like, we normally have armies go in with him into the thing. And so she like, he's doing it by himself. He's just going to do it by himself. And she's kind of watching this happen. And Cillian's there and they're so excited and this whole thing. And then Cillian looks at her and she's like, because our girl is like, I decided like 2 days ago, I'm not actually going to kill him. And the thing is, it doesn't work because if she had started earlier verbalizing, because like we thought she wasn't going to kill him, but she kept saying she was still going to kill him. But then she was like, nah, I've decided I want to be Empress and Rice Wife and I can control him. And you know, Morrow isn't better
I
anyway.
feel like
Morrow
maybe
kind of
the author
sucks.
is kind of showing their hand in wanting to hold you until that very last second when it doesn't entirely make sense
It's so
for the
dumb.
character's emotional development.
No. Especially when we're in
Mm.
her point of view. So for her to be like, haha, I just didn't tell you what I was thinking for a couple of weeks
Yeah,
while
and
I was
it's like
processing
it
this.
doesn't really
I'm like,
work. Because the whole time the reader
no.
was already thinking that you're not going to really you're not. So the one big
Yes.
aha
And
would have been if she used it. Oh, sorry.
yes, exactly. Like if we don't think
I,
it's
I get flappy. Yeah.
there's a lot of emotion. And so Saint John does say, in all fairness, she was contemplating on it and didn't decide it until talking to who. But I think it still would have been nice if she said it to the reader in that moment. It just felt like day of. And especially because we as the reader at this point are like, she's not going to kill him. So for me, I was expecting her to actually do it to kind of subvert that thing. But then she's like, okay, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to be Empress, blah, blah, blah. And she's kind of watching him. And he's like doing well and he's succeeding. And Cillian's like, yo, why isn't the Heart Spirit poem been done? And she's like, I'm not doing it. And Cillian's like, oh, fuck you, you bitch. Like, I can't believe you would do this. And she goes and she tells Morrow. And then there's this point where the dragon kind of gets a one-up on
Yeah, it's like passed out,
our
but it comes
guy.
to a
And
little bit.
yeah, and it hits him and smacks him down. And he's got to try fight him, and he's using a ton of his magic to do this thing and fight him. And then as he's kind of
He
like
subdues it. Oh yeah, he
weak
lifts.
and he subdues it. Yeah, he lifts, he uses his magic and he takes some swords and he throws the dragon back, but he uses so much magic, he's exhausted. And he's like, whoo, and he gets up onto his knees. And as he gets up onto his knees, fucking Morrow enters the magical boundary onto this arena and goes in and goes up to the dragon subdued, goes up to his brother and starts choking him. And our girl, the minute she realizes he's used too much magic, she's like, oh shit, I have to do something. And she's panicking. She's like, oh my God, Taryn's going to die. What do I need to do? And she realizes that the Heart Spirit poem, depending on how you write it, can kill someone or it can give them life. Like she can do what Taryn did, because when Taryn wrote that poem as a little Bebito baby about the carp and how beautiful his life was and like how worthy, and he showed so much appreciation and understanding of this little life that it brought the little guy, it healed him. And she's like, I can do that with my Heart Spirit poem. And so she's editing it and she's like, oh my God, I've got to do this. I've got to figure this out. Holy shit. What am I doing? And so she rewrites it. Cillian comes in and is like, what's that? And it looks like Taryn's dead. And then all of a sudden, our girl splits her consciousness where she's inside the arena and she's also outside in that tent watching everything. And she's a little fish, a little carp flying in his heart that kind of comes out, and he comes back from like the brink of death. Morrow had thought he was dead, had left him on the ground after choking him, and was at the dragon doing so. Like he literally let his brother subdue the dragon, and then he went to be like, I'm gonna be crown prince. And then Taryn stands up and the little fish is there like, ooh, but she's also the little fish. And the entire arena bursts with trees and flowers. And everybody's like, whoa, who did this spell and saved the prince and all of this stuff? This is crazy. And Morrow is like, no, I'm not going to do this. And he starts fighting with Taryn, but in a way where Taryn isn't attacking Morrow. He's
Defending.
just keeping Morrow, he's just defending. And Morrow is like, he breaks the arena, and at one point he throws Taryn, like, because he's throwing roads at him and rivers and stuff, but there's this one point where he literally opens a cavern and that Terran drops into, and he starts closing it on top of him, and Terran has to use like a bajillion swords, so it's rock versus steel to hold it out, and he comes out, and this whole thing happens, and while this fight is happening and he's attacking him, the dragon wakes up, sees Morrow, and eats him.
Even now, Terran won't hurt his brother. Even now, after all of this.
Yes.
It was the dragon who did it.
Yep. And literally chomps him, and viscera flies out, and Terran says, good night, Morrow. And the reader, the audiobook narrator, did a great job imbuing emotion into it that when you're reading just the page is not necessarily there. But then Terran, he takes the crown, he goes to the dragon, he imbues it, the dragon transforms, it's got knife scales, and Terran's like, oh my god, I did it. And he looks at Wei, and he lets her in this moment, and she realizes that in the past, when people help the prince do this thing, then the people in there with him can celebrate with him, because again, the fish version of her is in there, but the other version of her is outside, and he opens the field to let her in, and the little fish flies into her heart and stays there, and he says to her, I knew it was you. I could feel you inside me. I knew you helped me. And he was like, why didn't you tell me you were writing a poem to help me? And she was like, you wouldn't have let me, And he was like, oh, you're right. And he's like, I did it. I finally did it. I've done this thing. I'm going to be the emperor. And then she takes a knife out, and he's like, oh, she's going to kill me. And he just stands there and lets her stab him. Yes, they kiss. They do kiss. Because he's so sad. He looks at her, and he realizes she's going to kill him. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And then she kisses him, and then she stabs him in the heart and kills him. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Why did that happen? Why did she do that? You just spent so much time trying to save his life. You used a heart spirit poem of genuine empathy and understanding and care to save him, and then you immediately stab him? Again,
she used him for commodity, as every single other person has done. And she was like, no, I got a better one over there.
Yes, because what you discover after this happens is that she was like, once Morrow was dead, I realized Isan would be next in line if Terran died.
He can grow shit.
A better choice. He can grow shit. That's better than, weapons. Even though she's told earlier that the nation is about to be attacked and invaded, if Terran would to die, there's a bunch of people who want, and so having him is actually super beneficial to protect the nation. And she's like, nah, I care more about people eating, because even if they get attacked by other nations, as long as the peasants are fed, that's fine. And I'm like, do you not understand that foreign armies will pillage and kill?
They forage in the field, they steal, they rape, they pillage, they destroy. When a nation is subdued, a lot of its wealth tends to go to the host nation. But author,
it's just insane,
did this whole heckin' book to make us see that Terran was wronged and redeemable and did evil things, but everyone in this book do. And in the end, he was killed for doing the one thing he was so afraid of doing, which was letting someone in and trusting them. And I'm like,
Yep.
Too effective. Too effective
what is this?
At this.
And the worst part is, we don't know who Isan is. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? We don't know. Just because he has a good power doesn't mean he's a good guy.
She didn't even pick Isan. She picked peach trees.
Peaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that food.
Like a fatter pig.
And she's like, I don't care if we get invaded. It is insane to me
Isan would have been
that
alive and
this
had
is
his
what
magic still, sure, not to the same extent. Yeah, but
but he could have been
usually,
helpful
yeah,
with
and there was
Taryn
this
as
idea that the nation had been able to sustain itself before, and the famine was a great reason why it was in this state. Like, we don't need a prince to feed a people. We need aid. We need balancing of the economical
yes.
system. We need
It's insane. This is such a
it's so
wild,
wild.
and it's so
It's
upsetting
so wild
because
because this is the corner. This is the nail in the coffin of, okay, so Wei has become the rot that is in this empire. She has just done the thing again.
yep, she looked at these people
Yeah,
and saw
functions.
benefit to her goals. Yes. And it's so sad because it's sold to us as this is the best choice for the people, but I
No.
disagree. I don't think it is. I think you could have had both. Taryn was so ready. And there is a way to write this ending where it doesn't ruin it like this. So I think what could have happened and would have worked for the characters is Morrow does come. He fights against his brother. They have this whole altercation. The dragon kills Morrow, but in a way that doesn't completely destroy his body. Morrow ends up dying. Taryn becomes the emperor and is very thankful to Wei, but he doesn't want to live with his brother dead. That he loved his brother so much, he does not want this. He never wanted to be emperor. He's done it. He looks at it. He realizes, oh, I've done it, but my brother's dead. This person that I loved, that I never stopped wanting to not hurt. And if he asked Wei to kill him because he didn't want to live in a world without his
Yeah, that
brother.
would.
And then Wei having Wei be like, oh, but this doesn't fit my plan. I had a plan. You were supposed to be this ruler. I don't know who Isan is, but she has to, in that moment, have genuine empathy to him after doing the whole heart spirit poem, doing this whole thing, seeing it, and then seeing the little boy in him who's asking, make me little. I don't want to be emperor. I want my
Then
brother.
she would truly have broken
And then
the
she
cycle.
has to kill him.
And it's more in
And she
line
kills
with
him.
who we have been told that she wants to be.
It makes me so, and it's also a growth moment of her being like, I've made all these plans, I've done all these things, and he's asking me to do this other thing, and then her realizing, oh, if I don't do this in this moment, I will be using him just as his mother was, just as everyone around him, and that he's asking of me what he asked of Morrow that Morrow could not deliver.
Yeah, like
and I can
this
do
conclusion to the brother's story arc and Wei's arc, it is so grimdark. Like, what the heck? Like, that is such a depressing, fatalistic ending. I find it shocking. It's like, okay,
Yep.
It's a little like the Poppy War, how Rin wanted to change the nation. And in the end, she became a cruel tyrant. Like, I read the entire trilogy. She becomes a mad tyrant who ruins as much as she saves. It's just that at least Kwang, at the end, was aware that Rin was a crazy tyrant. Like,
yeah. And it's such a small change that fundamentally fixes this, that makes, and so I had this thought because St. John says, yes, it's such a simple change, but it would be better, but then makes the point, the only thing is that Wei kind of loses agency when she already doesn't have that much in the story, but that's the most satisfying for Taryn's arc. But I think it actually makes sense because for her to look at him and go, but this isn't my plan, I need him to live. I decided not to kill him to benefit, so I could be empress and I could be the rice wife and I could live with him as the rice wife and do these good things and do all of this shit, and now he's asking me not to do it. She does in that moment have to make a choice to use the empathy that she has learned and to stop using people.
She could like consciously formulate
to,
in her brain that part of what is wrong and rotten in this nation is this political scheming game where everyone walks over corpses to get to a top, the top of a pyramid that is crumbling from the bottom down. And like she can make that choice of letting him go and believing, like, not betraying him for the first time in his life, not betraying him so he could become that beautiful thing that he wanted to be. And there would still be this second prince back that could maybe help the nation change fundamentally. Still, since we don't know what is on is beyond peach trees, that is kind of an open ending.
Yeah, but it's also like the gamble she's making of choosing the route.
Yeah, and I feel like we have to respect that the emotional arc is Morrow and Taryn.
Yep. It is and it also makes that ending scene with the two of them as ghosts when she watches them so much more impactful, knowing that she gave this to him. She lets him go be little Babyito with his brother.
Their story is intertwined with this tale that Hessen told that begins 3 generations back of when the nation started going wrong. Like, that is the core. I know that the author decided to put it as Way's story, but the emotional kernel that drives this whole thing and the thematic substance is the throne and the scheming and how self-destructive it's become.
Yep. And it really, it's just so disappointing because it's all there, and just such a small change makes it so much more impactful and sad and fixes the thing with Wei where like she's using him just as much as everyone else is using him. And betrays him in the end, and it would make it so. And also, I could believe that he would be like, I don't want to live in. I did it. I did the thing everybody told me I had to, but my brother's dead, and I didn't want my brother to be dead. And him looking at her and being like, I don't want this. Like, please, I don't want. And I think it would have just hit home. That's not what happens. Isan comes to her and is like, I'm emperor now. Why did you not kill? And she's like, because once Morrow died, you were the better option. And he was like, okay, but unfortunately, people are going to attack us. And Taryn previously told her, like, hey, if I die during the coronation thing, I hid 20,000 Dao blessings to help the nation, and I'll tell you where it is. And so Isan comes to her while she's in prison and is like, hey, and she's like, actually, there's a bunch of blessings. And he's like, okay, what do
even
I give
after
you?
death,
So
he cared more about the well-being of the nation and all its inhabitants than any of these people. We're just scheming for their own gain.
It's insane. Somehow this book, you're like, Taryn's kind of the best guy. Like, it's just so funny. Like especially because like, we've read other ones that have tried to redeem.
Out of the awful, Taryn is human. And redeemable and malleable and like someone who acts from a place of hurt and trauma, which is so much more understandable than someone having everything and wanting more.
Yep, it really is. But yeah, so she tells Isan, I want to be pardoned. I want to go back to my town, and I want them to get like money every year.
Burn this fucking bitch.
Ladies. Yes. Yeah. I want all the ladies who were Taryn's concubine to give the option to stay, and I want you to teach them how to read and do literomancy. I want like a couple of other things. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it because I really want those 20,000 Dao things. And she's getting ready to leave. And as she's getting ready to leave the palace, Hessen comes and is like, guess you're leaving now. And Hassan's not mad at her. Hassan's like, game well played, my lady. And he's like, but I told Isan he should marry you because
I was like, what?
Yep. Now in a version where she kills Taryn because he asks it of her, and Hessen realizes, oh, she still has a heart. She came to the brink and then realized what was happening,
and she is not
everything.
Someone who will take it upon herself unduly to change the fate of nations and kill emperors. No.
Yes. No.
She's
did
smart.
It out of like the feelings and love and empathy. Yes. But anyway, so he's like, I told the best person to be empress is the person that already walked away from it once because you killed Taryn.
She didn't walk away from it. She murdered the emperor.
The book really. But also, she did it to get the outcome she decided was best. That's a shit move. Versus, like, if you do it because even though it's not what you want and it strips you of power, but you do it because this person is on their knees asking it of you and has been given nothing his whole life, and finally you have the ability to, like, satisfy the, you know. But anyway, so she decides, guess I won't go home. I'll be Rice wife.
I'm
and that's
so
the
sorry.
end of the book.
People being used as magical props for a kingdom in a big, like, the wheel just keeps turning. There is no one is better. Those who are uncorrupted, once they see the truth and enter the grand scheme and start seeing the whole picture, they become the same. That is too grimdark for me. That is, I'm the grimdark reader. That is too fucking grim for me. I finished this book, like I said, just being like, yep, that was a book. Because emotionally, I was like, I'm
gutted. And again, there's this point where she sees baby Taryn, young kid Taryn, and then his brother appears, and the two of them are playing, and then Tiger, Sparrow, and Nunu appear, and the boys are so happy, and she's like, I did that. And you're like, what the? And like, because you're sad. I cried during the scene because as far as the story of the brothers getting to be reunited as their simpler forms, that got me. But her watching it and having that reaction, I was like, fuck y'all.
No.
It didn't have to go down this way.
Isn't undoing harm that was done to them. It is cutting off their future.
Yep.
And any joy, any redemption they might have had, anything they might have become. Like, you can't gaslight me into thinking that
that was the right decision. Especially because he was like, we'll do it. Wait, I did it. We can do it. We'll rule together. As long as I live, we can do everything together. And you're like, yeah. Okay. And then she kills him. And you're like,
this is a fucking dystopia. And the message of the book is that there's no hope. It hurts.
That's not the intended message. The intended message. Yeah, the intended message.
Wade chose the rice, and I'm like, that is not my takeaway. I'm like, it's so good it hurts, and it's so unsatisfactory. Yeah. I cannot.
Yes, it just makes it so frustrating, and so like. I'm glad I had a day or two to kind of process my feelings on it, because I finished the book and I was sad and melancholic, in the scene with the two ghost boys playing. I was like, oh my God. But I was also like, I am unsatisfied at the same time. Like, why and it's just, and St. John makes the point, also random complaint. I feel like the ending for the penultimate chapter was a better ending than the actual final chapter. And I would agree. I think that is where...
If we ended there, it could have been like, okay, so Wei she looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked into her. She was hunting for monsters, and she became one, and that's where we're at. The book coming in and sort of telling us what what the takeaway is makes it worse for me.
Yep.
Worse. It was already shocking, and I feel so hurt. I feel that Taryn, like, why did you do this to me? Why did we do this to him?
Yep. Yes. Why? If this is how we were ending,
Yeah,
we could have
like,
gone less hard.
why did we build this way?
know?
Why did we build an entire arc of someone who had all the empathy, all the capacity, all the good stuff we want in people, who was again and again and again and again violated and used against themselves, and turned and morphed into something horrible. And the moment it starts looking a little brighter, the one person they let come in and start changing them for the better just kills them. Like,
just kills them. It's crazy. St. John made the point that it's the chapter where she says that she signed the document not as tail, like her name means, but with the greatness.
I think that is the final tell, that Wei has become the monster.
Yes.
She has become the
I
thing
would
she
agree.
hated
It is,
from the
because
beginning.
Yeah. Now, listen, if it is intentional and the author wants
like,
us to walk
well
away
done, but
thinking
too
that,
hard
but, like,
for me.
unfortunately,
I
it doesn't
cannot.
work because yeah, but not just that. I don't think it is, because the next chapter is the one where she sees ghost babies, like during the funeral, because Taryn didn't want a big funeral, and that's where she sees the two of them playing, and it's like, man, we did it. And I'm like, no, if it had ended without that scene and it just, you're left with, she really did want power. But the book at the end, with that whole scene watching the ghost little kids play and everything, and she's like, wow.
Yeah, if Wei
it feels
wasn't
like the
there to
book's like,
think,
yep,
and
this
it
would be
was
right.
just a scene of their ghosts meeting, it would have been kind of a little cathartic, because finally those ghosts, yeah, they're free
out.
now.
And they're no longer in everybody else's game. They're separate. And it would have been great if maybe, like, it was told in third person and Wei couldn't see their ghosts. Like, she'd gone so far. Like, if you were going to stick with it how it's written, she'd gone so far she could no longer see the ghosts, but they were there playing and no longer part of these schemes. That would be great. So two ways. You have it where Wei doesn't actually choose to murder him, but it's, he asks it of her because his brother's dead and she has to make a choice to give up everything and all of her power and all of that stuff. And then she still can see them at the end because, she did what he asked. Or you play it how it is, but
Yeah,
she
and if
can't
she
see
did what
them
he asked,
because she's
then there's a plausible sort of loophole for her not to get executed as well, because she obeyed her emperor.
Yeah. Yes. And like, especially because people were close enough that they could hear. And again, that having Hessen be like, maybe letting her go back to home because you did the thing, like he asked it of you and you didn't use him, you gave up the power, kind of thing. But yeah, that was
I'm really
so
sorry.
I'm so sorry. Well,
but
we
also,
did 4 hours.
let's just put this clear: the ghost scene would be cathartic because it gives a hope for a life after, like something after death. That is the catharsis, not that ghost children were set free, because they're shadows of the past.
Yes.
Sorry, Will. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
sorry. We did a long one. It was a lot. Listen, a lot happened, and there was a lot to talk about as far as emotional.
I was thinking
payoff
this was going to be
stuff,
a quick talk about it, and then once we started, I was like, I have so much emotion.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. I'm so interested to see, because sometimes we talk about books and then will talk to me about it after he's watched our video about it and then give me feedback. And I'm so interested to see what he says about it. But yeah, I'm good. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I want to go cry in a corner.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. That was here with us. All 5 of you, I think, was the most we ever had at one time.
Thank you.
And those of you who are
Please
watching the video, we love
like,
you,
comment,
our parasocial
subscribe.
darlings.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.